Episode 53. Happy Whiskey Wednesday, everyone. I'm Jake Sanders, and along with Steve Crane, we make up the Bourbon BS podcast. We have our good friend Nate on, and he's been waiting patiently for probably 5 months.
With this?
Yes.
8.
8?
With the,
I was gonna tell the story.
It's been that long.
The last time I was on was episode 36.
And we said it
37.
We said it that day that we weren't going to do a rye?
No, it was much earlier.
Oh, okay.
It was back in the summer.
Okay.
It was like, I think it was right after you guys had the backyard barbecue.
Okay.
With Brad.
Yeah.
It was 95 degrees, and Steve's like, yeah, no.
We're not doing it anymore.
No more high proofs or ryes if it's above 70 degrees.
That makes sense. Well, anyways, so for our returning viewers, thank you for tuning in. And for our new viewers, we talk about a whiskey, a cigar. We talk about the pairing. We get into our topic. We're going to be sipping on the Masterson's 10-year rye that Nate bought. Thank you, Nate, for bringing it. That, but
no, I wasn't going to.
Okay,
But I was going to tell you the story because there is something special on the bottle.
Okay,
so.
let's do that when we get on the air. And
Absolutely.
But as Steve's sharing it, we always do that, and we want to tell you guys and ladies to share it, like it. That really helps us grow, and that helps this thing grow. And it's been really pleasing to see like all the shares and likes the past few weeks. So thank you for all that support. And so we're going to be smoking on the Alec Bradley Magic Toast. That's right, folks. You heard that right. Is that it's called Magic Toast. Very interesting cigar, and we'll get into that. And Steve will tell us a little bit about that. And then our topic of the evening is kind of goofy, but it's
goofy.
It's just the phrase of it is goofy.
All right.
Like, why do what?
Why do you want what you want?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Why do you want what you want?
What would Jacob do?
Yeah, I'll get into that.
Let's not start making up bracelets. That would be way too.
You mean T-shirts?
Yeah, we got our T-shirts. We're going to finalize that this week. I know we've been talking about the last...
Viewership's way up.
Yeah, it went from 500 to 2,000.
Actually went down, to be honest.
You noticed something when Steve started talking?
So our viewership went up when you started taking off clothes? Is that what you were getting at?
It could be that, though.
It was actually, I think they were tired of hearing you guys talk while I was sharing.
Oh.
So it might be a long night.
Okay.
Shit. Alright. You ready for the cheersy?
Yes. After I
We
turn my
have
phone off.
We have viewers.
We do. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't have anything in my glass. Well, it doesn't matter.
Go ahead.
I don't have any of that yet.
I don't need
Well, it's because your glass is full.
Right.
You ready?
Of what?
I'm ready.
I don't know.
1, 2, 3. That was pretty good.
That was actually pretty good.
Happy Whiskey Wednesday, everybody. I'm Jake Sanders, along with Steve Crane. We make up the Bourbon MBS podcast. This is episode 53 for us, and it is finally technically a full year for us, and we want to first off say we appreciate all the support, and thank you everyone for tuning in and sharing this podcast with us, and we love our interaction that is on our Facebook Live and with every one of our viewers and listeners. But so if this is your first time tuning in, we talk about a whiskey, we talk about a cigar, and the pairing can get kind of goofy in there, but then we talk about a subject. And tonight's subject is going to be good. It's why do we want what we want, or why do you want what you want?
There you go.
And it's interesting, and we always say it's going to be an interesting conversation because it always is, and this is what mainly the podcast is about. So we hope that you enjoy it as we dive into it. But we have our good buddy Nate Hale on. This is your 5th? 6th. Wow. So in 53 episodes.
Six times.
Well,
6
there were
times.
a couple times where it was, hey, we're doing something, it's a holiday, or we have to do a recording on a Monday.
And it messes you up with your
well,
schedule.
not mine.
No, he actually fills in.
I fill in.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
It's been, Steve, that one Sunday was like, yeah, we're going to do it tomorrow. Don't know who's going to be on. I'm like, he's like, you don't need
Nate's
to raise
right
your
there.
hand.
Raising his hand from the back. Yeah, exactly.
What's going to make this episode so great is that Nate has been waiting patiently to let us try and sample for himself this Masterson's 10-year rye, straight rye whiskey. And it's amazing looking bottle, so thank you, Nate, for bringing that. And we actually had a gentleman bring it into the Tinder Box one time, our good friend Andy Hutch, and I refused to try it because I've been waiting for this moment. But it's going to be fun. And you said 8 months?
8 months.
You think it's been that long?
I bought that bottle June 9th.
Yeah. Well, and the backstory to it is really interesting because
that's
because we had said that when we said we weren't going to have ryes until it was about under 50 degrees outside, which it was actually. It was, but it's funny because now we're.
It was almost it was almost 60 today.
Yeah.
And it's still in the 50s right now, but last week it was 0.
Right.
Not the wind chill was 0, the actual temperature was 0.
Yeah.
So that's a huge swing in a week.
So he's been patiently waiting to try this. It is a straight rye whiskey, so we're able to try it. We've scheduled this, and we're excited.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I think I tried this, just a nip from
Andy.
From Hutch, yeah, but I don't really recall exactly my thoughts because it was a while back. So, and I apologize if this does go off. This iPad that we got kind of donated to the group.
Did we break it with the weather?
No, I just think it's a refurbished guy. Like, I don't know. It's and Andy was, not Andy Hutch, but Andy Pullman was nice enough to do it, but when we had your account on there and mine, now I did mine, I tried to reset it. Literally, it took all night and it said 1 minute remaining. I came back out and it had 1 minute remaining. And so now it's like I've got it on silent, but yet I'm still getting a couple of noises coming out of it. So I apologize if you guys picked it up on the microphone. And really, I blame Steve Jobs.
Aww.
Perfect.
Why do you say aw?
He can't defend himself.
It's, yeah, I mean, people die. They do.
Yeah.
Everyone will.
Unfortunately. Great way to start the podcast.
Well, I like to bring people up.
Yeah, exactly. So, first off, we do want to thank our sponsors of the evening. Thank you, Tinder Box at Easton, for providing the Alec Bradley Magic Toast. We're going to see and hear a different bit about the history and how it, just the blend and things. Steve normally takes care of the cigars.
Right.
I take care of the whiskey, but we want to thank Altadis, our second sponsor of the evening, for providing the Romeo 505 Nicaragua.
We've smoked that one before, but I thought it'd be good to follow up the Magic Toast with that one.
Okay, yeah, I think so. So we got, well, we can get into the bodies and stuff for those cigars.
Yeah.
Anyways, and then, so thank you, BS Cigar Company, as always. Brian, Steve, you make an amazing cigar. There's always a BS Gold or Silver laying around the table here, and there's normally a couple
I got
of
2 in my
golds.
case.
Yeah, so Nate's got them, I got them, Steve got them, we all got them.
And we've been getting a lot of support from other cigar companies. You know, we'd like to pick it up on the bourbon side or the whiskey side.
Yep.
Luckily, we have good friends like Nate who want to be on the podcast, and also he brings whiskeys normally, and some of our other friends do as well. So we appreciate that. If you guys do want to become a guest on here, you're in the Columbus area. If you want to set up a live Facebook viewing, we can make our first attempt at doing that, other than when we had Nate try to do a prototype of that, but I think we're ready for that. We're in year 2 now, so I definitely want to try that, and so you can join us on there. Also, we had some cool conversation today, actually, I did, with Nook, who's been on before.
Yeah.
So Nook and I were talking about the potential fact that we're going to maybe have a version of the Smoking 10 event here in Columbus, Ohio on March 15th. In the meantime, he was actually up at New Holland.
I saw that today.
Yeah, but part of it was he was talking to the guys up there again about having our first on-site podcast.
Yeah.
Wow, that'd be
So,
awesome.
That must be
basically it would be, we'd have to, he said stipulations are obviously we'd have to get up there and we'd have to smoke CLE cigars and Asylum cigars the entire time.
I think
and they would provide all the spirits. So, you know, if we can manage that, you know, I think we'd have
That'd
our
be a
first
winner.
great one. Yeah, and then I guess Nook, it's not a demand, but he says I want to be a guest. So Nook, we'll see what we can do about that part. I mean, we appreciate.
The rule is you have to have your keys on your waistband.
Yeah,
the whole time.
again. Yeah,
we can't lose those things again.
Yeah, or we'll just put Dustin in his spot.
Exactly.
But no, I think that's great. I mean, we're getting some support. Altadis has already said they're going to renew our sponsorship, so that's gonna be exciting.
For sure. Well, I mean, we normally try to start out with...
How was your week, man?
Yeah, we normally try to start out with that. Why is it me? Just me?
Because.
Just because? Okay.
I can tell you about mine, but I asked you.
No. It's good. Last couple of days were rough just because I'm in the funeral business. That's my new job, and selling plots and stuff. So I had my first family that came in, and obviously it's a rough time. They were very distraught, and it was definitely hard to witness that, but and to try to basically calm them down and let them know that this is how much it's going to cost and stuff, and trying to explaining to someone that this is the amount of money that you're going to pay, and you're already upset, distraught, pissed off, all the above. It's very difficult. So not to get too morbid, but that was definitely interesting. But other than that, it's been great. I mean, Tuesdays are always great because Steve and I work at the box, and it's always, honestly, that's kind of what I look forward to in the day.
Me too. Why is that funny?
I don't know.
I think it's just the delivery.
Yeah. The delivery.
Exactly.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, I mean, other than that, today, that's what I was going to say. Where to go? So,
Panic.
yeah, so about 10 episodes we had talked about, it's probably more than 10. Anyways, we had talked about, we had Che Miller, and we talked about Hotel Tango. And that I went along with Che and a group of veterans to Hotel Tango Artisan Distillery that is in Indianapolis, Indiana. And finally, Ginty at Opa Bar and Grill up in Delaware, Ohio, they finally got the bottles. And I'm super, super excited to finally get these.
We had Che on when you guys had just done that, right? You guys,
Yeah.
It was an episode, if you guys go back, I don't know what number it was, but yeah, you had the red
We had the
shirts
Hotel
on.
Tango
yeah, you guys
shirts on.
matched. It was cute.
Yeah, but this was awesome because this was like my first real barrel pick experience, and we were just talking last week about how it'd be great if we could go down to Buffalo Trace and get an Eagle Rare barrel, and if we had that kind of money, just because we all love Eagle Rare. But definitely to do this and to see it, in your hands, and to see that, I didn't really help pick this, but they went with the one that I enjoyed, so it kind of worked out. But it's great. So it's a 6-year-old bourbon whiskey, and it's a single barrel bourbon, obviously. But Ginty from Opa got a full barrel of it at barrel proof, so it's 116 proof.
Nice.
And Nate and I tried it a little bit before we started, and Dustin and Steve will try it after. But this stuff is phenomenal, and we're gonna talk to you guys and gals more about it on another podcast and like really dive into it. But this was it's cool to see. That's all I'll say.
It's got a nice little hug to it.
A little hug, yeah.
It needs a little splash of water. We don't say that a lot,
Just
but
a
it
cap.
does.
That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah. How was yours, Steve? Like, how's it been since we were talking last night at the shop while we were working? How smoking tenement, the issues.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been a busy week or two for me with trying to piece together a smoking tent event, in a matter of speaking, because we still don't have written confirmation from the city of Columbus by way of their fire department and by way of the zoning commission for us to be able to smoke in the tent based on fire code. We talked about it on previous episodes, so it's a little frustrating because we started this about 5 months ago, and we thought it'd be enough time. That's what we were told, and every step takes forever. So we're a little frustrated. So if anyone out there is listening and is in any way involved in that, please do reach out to me and see if there's anything we can do, because we keep getting the, yeah, no problem, like I'll have an email over to you like today or tomorrow, and that's been going on for a while. So very frustrating for us, obviously, and for a lot of the 300 people that were there last year. So that's very frustrating. But in the meantime, because we might have a green light, I've been on the phone either texting or talking to people like Nook, Ryan Ponus from Alec Bradley, Josh from Altadis, Lee from Oliva, basically about 10 to 12 different vendors, trying to get all the information for an event that may or may not happen, including the budget for the cigars that we may or may not get. including the food that we may or may not have time to do based on what we're doing. So I'm basically trying to plan about 8 events all at once,
Yeah.
and not knowing if anything can happen. And in the meantime, I closed on a house last week, as we talked about, and so since the weekend, I've got painting being, like, my mom and Liz are actually, they've been helping paint since I've been trying to get everything else, like, coordinated and also working, which I'm very fortunate to have people help me out with that. But we've got 2 of the bathrooms are torn up right now, 2 out of 3. The third one will be torn up here shortly.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I don't have a sink or a shower in the master bath right now yet. Well, I did, but now I don't.
When do you move in?
By the end of this month. So
Perfect.
Yeah, today's the 6th that we're recording on.
3 weeks.
Got 3 weeks. So tile's supposed to start going in on Friday. I've got people that have been tearing that apart, as well as doing some other odd jobs around the house that I don't have the ability to do. I got a great guy, George, who's been helping out, but he's got a bunch of things kind of torn apart in the middle of it. He's doing like some major puttying on some of the walls, and I took off a corner cabinet mirror in one of the bathrooms.
A little nervous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot going on. And then the carpet goes in next Saturday. So I got all carpet going in the first floor.
And then the bathrooms.
No, the bathrooms are getting ceramic tile this weekend. Hopefully,
Yeah, you don't put carpet in bathrooms.
No, don't do that, because the pee won't come out. You miss the urine.
I once
always had carpet in my bathroom growing up.
I once looked at a house that, kid you not, had carpet on the bathroom walls.
No, I believe it. We got Matt Sluter out here saying I missed the Tinder Box. I haven't been to Columbus in 3 years. Welcome, Matt. Appreciate you joining us.
Yes.
And then Stephen Mustard saying Ohio Blue Line 4x4 Club. Check us out. So we'll give you guys shout outs if you guys are commenting and we see it in time. So
are you law enforcement, Stephen? Right?
I assume.
He said Blue Line.
We started sharing with Line of Duty Cigars because we had Mark come in from New York. Retired police officer.
It's Mark.
30 years. Mark from New York.
M-A-H-K.
Right. But we've had a lot of people from the Line of Duty Cigars actually contributing, so I assume, maybe correctly, that Stephen Mustard is actually from that group. So we appreciate you guys tuning in.
For sure.
All right, let's get down to it.
Yeah. What was the story that you wanted to talk about on this Masterson's?
So the picture that you guys posted this week leading up to this episode.
Yeah.
So that was when I was on the week after I bought this. So I bought this on June 9th, Saturday.
We were doing an Alec Bradley cigar that night too.
Yeah. So I bought this on a Saturday because I was supposed to be on the next week. However, one of Dustin's friends from out of town
Right, yeah, that's
in
right.
town.
Yeah, so we
pushed me a week back to have him on.
Right.
Well, 2 days after that episode, I picked up that Russell's Reserve Ohio barrel release.
Oh, yeah.
So the next week, instead of bringing the Mastersons, I brought that Russell's Reserve, and we smoked an Alec Bradley. So here we are. Finally, I get to bring this on, and we're smoking an Alec Bradley.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's like a match made in heaven.
But yeah, so I got this. I got it from Wyland's, which you've heard people talk about before. They have a
great bourbon
pretty
selection.
good bourbon selection.
In the Clintonville area in Columbus, right?
Yes, it's on Indianola.
Columbus, yeah, exactly.
It's on Indianola.
It's a great market in general.
Yeah.
They've got a killer liquor selection.
Yeah, during the football season, Hutch, a few times a season, brings in those smoked wings. Yeah, that's from there.
Oh, okay.
He calls them up the night before. He's like, I need 4 pounds of smoked wings. I'll pick them
Very
up.
cool market,
Yeah, real nice. I mean, they do great stuff, but it's got that kind of small mom and pop feel to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until you go to the liquor section, you're like, this is
Yeah,
bad.
it's like a quarter of the store.
Yeah, it really is. But I was in that section. I was looking through the bourbons and whiskeys, trying to come up with something to bring.
Yeah.
And this was actually in the locked case that they have.
Sure.
Like if you go to Kroger or Giant Eagle, they may have like a half case or
I've seen this.
maybe the fuller one
Kroger
behind the counter.
Before. Okay.
But they have like all the small, 50 ml bottles underneath there. This at Wyland's, that case is nothing but full size high end bottles, and so this one was in there. And so,
what's the price tag on this?
$70.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's not. I mean, to be in that cabinet, I would think that, but it must just be because it's a little more rare.
Yeah, I think so. That and it's a 10-year rye. So
10-year rye.
Straight rye. Yeah.
Because I saw, I sent a message to Brad Grimsley, who's been on the show before. There were a couple of whistle pigs in the Kroger, including that 12-year.
The regulars,
the old
100.
world.
The old world, that was like $130.
130. Yeah.
I sent it to him because I'm like, I don't know if this is one of the ones because he
brought
has
in the
few.
Boss Hoss.
Right, but there's a few
Boss
that he
Hall,
says, you know, like you see it, buy it. So I sent him a message and I was like, hey man, like, is this one of the ones that if you see it, you want it? And he said, yeah. I said, well, I just left. I can go back. And he's like, nah, don't worry about it. I'm just going to go to the Giant Eagle on the way to the shop. And he said, are you still at the shop? I said, no, I'm actually just sent you a picture from a liquor store. Like I said, I didn't specify that I was there.
Yeah.
I just said, is this one of the ones you always want?
Yeah. What's funny is the state's last call liquor store, which is by my office, they actually have the Whistle Pig.
Is it the 10-year or the 12-year?
I think they have both.
Yeah, this one has both.
The 10's the yellow label, the 12 is the red.
They had both at this Kroger.
They're both really good. I think both overpriced, but
Well, I tried the 10-year when I was in Chicago because one of my sales reps had given me a gift card to a restaurant, and so I went and had drinks that I had to pay for them.
Yeah.
I had a $50 gift card, bought me 3 drinks.
there you go.
But
That's not bad.
one pour of the Whistle Pig 10-year was $20.
Jeez, that's
Wow.
On a $100 bottle was $20. But
It wasn't quite 100 at the store.
at the time I drank it, I was like,
89?
that is the
normally 89.
best rye I've ever had. At
Yeah.
the time I tried it in Chicago, I was like, that's the best rye I've ever
It
had.
is really good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Well, how about we get into the whiskey that we're actually drinking
What are
tonight?
you talking about? I was, you know, it's,
No, I know. So again, we're going to be drinking we are sipping on. Steve's not yet, but
I'm drinking a rye though right now because
you are.
figured we'd
So
stick
we're
with
all
theme.
ryes tonight.
I think so. This is
Pretty much.
Yeah, just out of principle that it was supposed to be under 55. That Mother Nature's drunk and we don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's Ohio.
Might as well join her.
It's Ohio.
As soon as we have Nate on, it goes warm again.
That's right.
But so it's a Masterson's 10-year rye, and it comes out of an interesting distillery that is in California. But that's not where. So we've talked about sourcing a lot, right? And this is another source whiskey. But good part is that, well, not a good part, but just a different fact is that it doesn't come from MGP. It's actually a Canadian rye whiskey, which is really, really interesting. And it's awesome because when you drink it, it doesn't taste like a Canadian whiskey. I don't think, but it is all
like
rye.
Crown Royal or Seagram's.
Yeah, but it's interesting because, well, for one, the distillery that it gets imported into the United States is called Bottler 35 Maple Street, Badge Beverage Corporation. So it's definitely a mouthful. It's 45%, so 90 proof. It's good, but they try to skew the story. So the story is about Bat Masterson's, William Bat Masterson's, and he was pretty much like an influential person. It aims, like the lure to consumers is to glaze past its sourcing and focus on its story. So it's really
Which
they grabbed a hold of a story and kind of went with it, which unfortunately.
And they kind of put part of that story right on the
He's got the
label.
dude's face on it.
Yeah.
Middle name Bat?
Yeah, well, it's
His
that's
nickname.
his nickname.
Quotes, I got you.
But it's definitely a beautiful looking bottle, tall for like really what it is. It almost looks like a extended Four Roses small batch bottle, almost.
I got
So
you.
people know what that looks like. But right off the bat, I think it's good. I think it's great for that 90 proof. I wouldn't want to see and this is coming from me. I wouldn't want to see this any higher because it's definitely got a spice to it because it is 100% rye. One interesting note, and I know I keep saying interesting, but I do find a lot of this stuff interesting, is that so the rule in Canada, they aren't regulated like the United States. So if they say that something is like 100% rye, they're allowed to get away with that even if it's not.
Really?
Yeah, but because you could have 100% corn whiskey in Canada and call it 100% rye, and you'd be within legal bounds.
Interesting.
But because this was bottled in the United States, it was imported in and bottled in the United States, I think it's a safe bet to say that it is 100% rye. But I don't know. It's definitely grainy smelling. It's got a grain smell to it, and what I mean by that is, it's going to sound funny to a lot of you, I think, but it tastes exactly like rye. And the only reason why I say that is that when we were down at Kentucky just a couple weeks ago, Alicia and I finally, when we went to the tours, I finally grabbed a big handful of like mashed up rye, and I smelled it because I always wondered what the actual grain smelled like, all milled up and stuff.
Okay.
And this is if you ever wonder, this is exactly what it smells like. And I'm sure that like bullet rye smells like that too.
It smells different than this.
Yeah. It's got a lot of floral notes. It's kind of like a Scotch without the smokiness, the way that I would portray it. And we did just have a Scotch on. But it's very, very floral. I found a quote on like a reviewing page, right?
Yeah.
And we know that I can get crazy, but someone said sweet cereal, frosted flakes, and caramel corn pop.
Like in that order, or do they eat it all together?
I don't know.
And is that what they taste in this, or that's what they're eating?
That was the
They're
nose.
Pairing
That was the
cereal
nose.
with this.
That was the nose.
That's just the nose.
That's just the nose.
The fuck out of here.
Well, hey, that's nicer.
Hot breakfast cereal builds, making for a creamy nose, canned fruit salad, and cherry lollipop add a certain fruity element.
Cherry lollipop. Okay.
Which I'm sad to say, but obviously we've said this before. If you say it and think it,
Now you got cherry.
now, yeah, off the nose, yeah.
Okay.
It's so, it's not like, do you get any like citrus out of it? You know how we sometimes say there's like orange and stuff like that in there? There's no like real citrus in there.
I don't get citrus, but I mean, again, I talk about like the lighter notes. It's definitely a lighter finish.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of, and I'm not putting any water in there like Nate is, but I've got just a little bit of, what is that flavor?
Cherry lollipop, man.
No.
You don't think?
No, your lollipops have gone bad, and you should not go to that house again next or Halloween.
I think on the back end when I like listened to when I saw cherry, what was the one the other week where someone said cherry seltzer water or something like that?
Yeah, the cherry seltzer water.
That's my weird note for the evening is that it's on the back end, but it's a little weird. What I like about it is sometimes, even though it's a 10-year, I would, with rye, sometimes you get that young metallic-y finish that we get sometimes, especially with like Weller Antique.
You get it on this?
You get it?
Like
I think it's on the line.
When I first had it, when we were starting up, even though it's a 10-year, for some reason it tasted a little on the young side.
Yeah.
And I don't. It's like how can a 10-year whiskey taste young? It just has a little bit of that young, drier finish to it.
I mean, if you think about it, if it's a 10-year rye that was aged in Canada, basically, it's super cold. I don't know where it was aged in Canada.
You probably don't get as much going in and out of the
States. Exactly. So it'd probably be, it'd be much like a Scotch where you're aging like 10 to 15 years and you're getting what you could get in like a 5-year-old bourbon that's in Texas.
That makes sense.
You know, like you get more potency out of a 5-year bourbon in Texas than you would out of a 10 or 12-year-old whiskey that comes out of Canada or Scotland.
Do we know how, like, was it completely aged for 10 years in Canada?
Yes, and it was imported and then bottled in California.
Okay, because the reason I was asking that, I didn't know if it was barreled and then shipped to California, and aged there, or if it was aged entirely in Canada.
I wonder how they do that.
You're saying because of the climate?
Yes. Yeah, so for those that don't know, when you're in a colder climate, and that's why Kentucky is so great for making bourbon whiskey, is that when it's hot, the whiskey's funneling into the wood, it's grabbing all those sugars and all those tannins out of the wood, and it's getting that beautiful color. And then when it's cold, the barrel contracts and it shoves all that whiskey back out into the barrel.
I got you, yeah.
So if you're in a colder environment all the time, you're not getting that big, push and pull from the whiskey, and you're not getting all those flavors and all those sugars out of the wood.
That makes sense when I had the 19-month rye next to it, why that 19-month looked darker than this 10-year. That 19-month is coming out of Kentucky.
Talk about that one real quick.
So
this is actually a pretty cool story for everyone that's actually a fan of the podcast.
So
it's true.
So
if you aren't, please stay tuned.
So
Jesus, I just think it's cool because
it is
cool.
So a couple Fridays ago in the state of Ohio, there was a limited bottle release from the Limestone branch, which is part of Yellowstone branch distillery, which is the only distillery owned by any of the Beam family anymore. Because Jim Beam, the name and those products got bought by Satori, I believe it was. So Yellowstone branch is owned by Stephen and his brother Paul Beam. So there were 3 shops in all of Ohio that were releasing these half-fifths. And one in Akron, one in Cincinnati, they both had 30 bottles. One here in Columbus had 60, and Stephen Beam was here in Columbus autographing bottles.
Yeah. And yours.
And my wife actually took the day off.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, can you go to that?
Good woman right there.
Yeah, can you go to that Giant Eagle? And she actually called me because it was freezing cold that day. She gets to the Giant Eagle, and it's like 7:20. She doesn't see anyone out there. And when I did the Russell's pick, there were already people out there at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And that was for 120 bottles.
Right.
Wow.
So she goes inside. I tell her to go inside because maybe they have the stores open. Maybe there's people inside waiting because it's cold out. And she calls me back. She's the second person in line.
Nice.
So, I don't really... It doesn't do anything for me if I get a bottle autographed to me.
Yeah.
Why not?
I don't care.
There it is.
Whether it's autographed or not, I'm still going to drink it. Make it out to me, okay. I don't care. That only affects me.
Sure.
Okay, so the night before in the shop, I kind of joked with Jess, like, you should have him make it out to the Bourbon BS podcast. And so Jess goes up there, hey, who do you want me to make it out to? She goes, Bourbon BS podcast. He goes, come again? To what?
Yeah.
She goes, Bourbon and BS podcast. So not only does it say Bourbon and BS podcast, but then it says, keep up the BS.
Nice.
Stephen B.
It's amazing.
Amazing. I love it, man. He's a good picture, but we should take a picture of that tonight so we can post that. That's great.
Yeah. So
he's a good dude too.
Like I had told you guys that I had it autographed.
Yeah.
And it said, Bourbon BS podcast. What I hadn't told you was that he actually wrote that second line, keep up the BS.
That's cool.
So that's another reason why I brought that tonight, so that way I can show you guys that.
Well, thank you, Nate and Jess.
Because that's
actually, thank you, Jess, mainly. Like, Nate's cool, but like Jess, if you're listening or when she does listen, or just want to talk to her next, that's fine too. But I'll just thank her mainly.
That's fine.
Nate, that's cool that you brought that though.
So what's cool though about that bottle, and going back to what Nate was explaining, is it's a half-fifth, but it was aged for 19 months in a 15-gallon barrel instead of a 53-gallon barrel. Mm-hmm. And for those that don't know, because it is such a smaller barrel, the whiskey, the ratio is better between whiskey, the surface area, and the whiskey. And so on this 19-month in Kentucky, you have a darker color that's like caramel, amber looking, and then you have the Masterson's rye coming out of Canada, basically.
A little more caramel.
That's 10 years old. Yeah, it looks more like honey.
Yeah.
it's a lighter whiskey. It's interesting.
Yeah. And what I really like about this one is the secondary label. They have all the information that you would want to know about a whiskey. So they actually call this the OH Ryo.
Clever.
Mash bill, 100% malted rye, barrel 318.
Yeah.
It was barreled at 50.8%.
Pretty good.
Bottled at 47.
Wow.
Huh,
Aged for 19 months, and barrel char number, level 3 char. It actually says that on there as well.
That's cool.
And then you also have Stephen Beam's signature on that
one.
So you got two of them.
Yeah, so you have a signature on the label, and then you actually have his autograph.
And he actually signs each bottle. Alicia and I went down there a couple years ago, and he actually signs and writes all that himself, which is even cooler, I think. But I mean, what
it's
do you?
Nice touch, yeah.
Yeah. What do you guys think of the Mastersons, the 10-year?
I like it. It doesn't have that typical. So like when we talk about some of the ryes that we like, Jake. We talk about the Willet rye, especially the 3-year before they, I guess, discontinued it. But I mean, I get more of like a spice, like we always talk about. I always talk about like Christmas Day spice. It's that. What are the
like with Angel's
ginger
Envy,
snaps, like I mean, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
Gingerbread, yeah. So this doesn't have this, but I wish I could figure it out, like what Jake is really getting better and better at. But that flavor wheel, there's definitely, as I swallow, it like has that kind of not complete finish, but right before the finish, there is a flavor that is very, very recognizable, and yet I can't place it.
Yeah.
It's an interesting, like right there in the back of my tongue.
I've noticed that if I'm sipping a whiskey, if I sit there, take a sip, hold it, and then swallow down the hatch, I get a little bit more heat. I don't pick up as many flavors. But if I sit there, take a sip, and then within a second, down the hatch it goes, I actually taste a little bit more that way, and I get less heat doing that.
See, we were talking about the other week. Remember me saying that is when people are tasting stuff for the first time, they're really wanting to taste it. I mean, it helps if you're like in a Glencairn with the nose, but it doesn't really mess with the whiskey, tasting most of the time.
Sure.
In a rocks glass or in a Glencairn or any other glass for that matter. But it's good when you're first taking your first sip of the day to just take a swig and, not a shot, but take a swig and let it go.
Yeah.
And then, don't let the alcohol burn your taste buds, basically, because then you won't be able to taste anything. Actually, we learned at Angel's Envy, Alicia and I, that it really takes 3 or 4 sips of something to really get a taste out of it. So,
which I love their tour.
Yeah, Angel's Envy does a really, really great tour, but that distillery is designed for a tour. Like they built that on the basis of touring.
The gentleman that we had do our tour, he was so much into the history, the backstory of not just the company and Wes Henderson, but also the building itself, the location, what had gone on there before.
History.
Yeah. And that was great. This has a lot of legs to it too. It's very oily.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's the tannins from being 10 years old, but the color from the wood isn't really what it should be.
What you expect.
Yeah, what you expect.
It is it's like almost like an amber, like, it's not a brown.
Do you want to do your famous reading of the label?
Oh,
actually, Nate wanted me to, but hang on. What I do like about this is that they actually are, they're right there. This is one that I could read the back of as far as the description of the actual whiskey, and actually wrap my head around. I mean, like it goes through, the grains of rye, glacial water from the Northern Rockies, pot still, oak aging, and then it says the result, a remarkable whiskey with a trace of pepper and spice, along with a subtle sweetness. I mean, it's like you're straightforward. You're not trying to like paint me a picture like the Frosted Flakes caramel corn guy over here. But I mean, it's not you.
I know.
Like for those, and I do want to also apologize because I'm watching on my feed here. I don't know what's going on with Spectrum around here, but there's something going in and out as far as clarity of the video. So if you're watching on Facebook, please bear with us and just hopefully you can hear us all right. as opposed to the crystal clear HD normally that we have. So, but yeah, so Masterson, 10-year-old straight rye whiskey, enshrined within 100% rye whiskey, deemed to be as rare as the man himself. Gambler, buffalo hunter, army scout, gunfighter, and newspaper man. William, quote, Bat, end quote, Masterson, did it all and did it well. And what better way to honor such a rarefied man than with a truly exceptional whiskey, crafted by artisans, distilled in a pot still, and aged in white oak casks for just over 10 years. It's the kind of drink that Bat would have surely raved about.
That was just beautiful.
If we ever is that the picture of the guy kind of looks, you know,
it's a good picture.
All right, well, you say good picture, and I'm seeing it as though like the picture's about to be taken, and he farted and couldn't look the camera in the eye.
God.
You know what I'm saying? Like it was kind of like one of those things. Like, you know, he's like ready, and you look at it. See, kind of looking away.
Well, isn't
you know
that
what I mean?
like the mischievous, like,
yeah, he farted.
Okay.
Yeah, mischievous. He farted, and that's where it's like you just.
Okay.
He said they're going, what, me?
Yeah.
Maybe he saw a bird.
And if you saw a bird and they were taking a professional photo,
I mean, I'm just
like,
saying, you're really not giving this guy.
That's the one you want to go with is the bird picture. You know,
I really
like,
do.
I'm sure. Although, what year is that guy? You know, like what era is he in?
Oh,
I'd say 20s. I'd say like
I would
Prohibition
say,
area.
Well, and
era.
when you look at what Steve read his life story and what he used to do, he doesn't look much like a gambler or a buffalo hunter, an army scout, or a gunfighter.
What does a buffalo hunter look like, though?
I've imagined someone like Davy Crockett, wearing furs, thick,
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I see it.
wearing lots of fur or leather. Whereas this one, he's in a suit with a bow tie. So
It was
it's probably
the
when he
era,
was,
though.
well, it was probably when he was the newspaper man.
Could have been.
Towards the later end of his life.
Could have
Yes, yes.
That could have been.
If we ever have a distillery together, Steve, you're reading off everything.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
I'm absolutely.
Because that was good. That was good.
I appreciate
He's
that.
gonna
I
read
started
one,
at the end.
he's gonna read one, and then all of a sudden a representative from that distillery is gonna hear him, look over, and be like,
That's perfect.
"All right, you're gonna read everything."
Well, if that person's out there right now,
drinks on the house.
Sponsor the podcast.
contact
please.
us, and I'll read your labels, and we'll record it. We're fine. Yeah, absolutely.
Just provide bottles, right?
You know,
Here's what I got.
pay me in whiskey.
Yeah.
They're like, and my phone starts ringing. Like, God damn. It's like the cheapest talent out there. Right? Perfect.
Here's what I gotta say about this Masterson tenure is I really enjoyed it, and thank you, Nate, for bringing it. It's the 100% rye it's dry. I think like your tongue and your mouth
It does have a
it's not
dryness.
chewy. It's just dry. Like it
It's
dries
not
out.
It could be part of the magic toast pairing with it, though. Also.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not a real rich
It's not
flavor.
rich.
While it's oily and coats your palate, it doesn't have a great depth of flavor to it.
I don't think so.
It just hits you right up front. Hey, here's what I am.
You don't
Bye.
get anything back here?
No, I do.
I've got a lingering
I do.
sweetness there.
I do. I just don't know what it is.
That's my thing. I can't place it. So
I can't either.
If
It's
anyone out
such
there's
a-
had this, please do chime in with the flavor profile that you think it finishes with.
Yeah,
It's
Because
not
I
a cherry
can't-
lollipop, is it?
That's fucking bull. No.
well, on the nose though, on the nose, it smells on the back end like
All right.
a cherry lollipop,
So a cherry lollipop by itself, I mean, there is
or
some
like
fragrance,
like the cherry NyQuil. That's what it.
what lollipops are you? I mean,
Well,
sucking on.
yeah,
that,
but I
that
think-
tastes like medicine. I just don't.
Well, every time
Well, I
I
guess
taste
because
cherry,
it's
I
got
think
the alcohol
of
in
that.
it, so does NyQuil.
Wait, you
Every time I taste cherry, I think of that.
NyQuil?
Yeah, I think of cherry NyQuil. Most
Like a
people.
cherry Jolly Rancher, you think of
Yeah,
NyQuil? Really? How
Most
much
people
NyQuil
do.
have you had?
most people do.
I
If
feel
you
like
ask
you're
most
speaking
people-
for. All right.
For our listeners,
Let's
do
start a
you-
poll out there right now.
For our listeners, if you when you taste cherry or something like that, does that remind you of the cherry NyQuil?
Go right
Yeah,
ahead.
I don't want to kill the bottle.
Or is there something out there
I
that
don't care.
reminds you of that medicine
Wait,
flavor
Wait,
or
wait,
whatever?
he wants to crack this.
Cherry candy is definitely one of the more popular flavors out there, and I think that NyQuil though does not,
But I think with cherry candy, that cherry and that sweetness just lasts and lasts and lasts. I think because of that alcohol and that little bit of burn, maybe that's where he's getting the NyQuil from.
The coating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever. Someone,
Bourbon testing, Casey. Yes.
Little Tussin?
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Casey.
Right. I haven't gotten that comment yet.
Yeah. Oh, well. He's my friend, so.
Perfect. And Nook says gross.
Yeah. It's good, and I don't want to. I don't.
Well, let me ask you this.
Dislike it or not.
I think he's saying gross to the NyQuil part. And in all fairness, Nook, if you could verify on the Facebook Live that you've been at New Holland, I assume you're still there. So I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at right now? If you are tuning in, because he's been on the podcast, and I mean, if he's if it's
I'm trying. No, I'm trying to find something else out of this. And
well,
just,
you do that. I'll ask Steve.
I've got a piece of the label in my glass
here. Probably from when you pour.
There's a little bit of cinnamon in there, kind of what we get out of most ryes.
Well, let me ask you this.
Ginger.
Nick says yes. That's what he's saying about the NyQuil.
Okay, cool.
$70.
Justifying? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Would you pay $70 to try this again? Because we do the same thing with cigars.
Oh, all the
in
time.
the shop, we'll smoke a cigar.
Yeah.
No.
Like we've sat there and had samples. Oh yeah, this is a $30 cigar, and you're like, yeah, I'd pay $8 for it.
Yeah, no.
I actually really enjoy this. It's just
I do too.
I struggle. You know me. I struggle to spend $70 on a bottle unless I really so. There was like a Glenfiddich 18 at the closeout. Now they have an end cap closeout at the Kroger that I go to a lot of times. It's a grocery store near me. And so like a Glenfiddich 18, but it didn't have a price on it, and I didn't want. I knew it was still like north of 100, I'd imagine. But there was just 2 bottles sitting there, and I'm just like, kind of half tempted to go up there, but I mean,
The last.
Don't stop talking when I do
you're holding
something.
a video. I thought you were
The last call store by my office, they had Dewar's 15 year.
Yeah.
They had one bottle left. It was $33.
That's a great deal.
Yeah,
that is a good deal.
Yeah.
But
$70. Yeah, go ahead.
70 for this, no.
No, and I'll tell you what. So $70, 10 year. I'd rather, and because I have a bottle at home, I'd rather spend $60 on the Russell single barrel rye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or even $40 for the small batch rye.
Yeah.
And those are both 6 years.
Yeah.
But they're darker, they have more flavor, they're deeper, they're more complex.
It's interesting for me though is that if you like ryes for the traditional characteristics of a rye that at least I've experienced, this is definitely not for you. If you're a bourbon person that you want to try a rye, that you're not like you also say that you don't care for ryes, I think this is a stepping stone rye that you could actually drink and actually enjoy because you like certain sweeter bourbons.
Even though to go back to what Jake said, it tastes more like what rye the grain actually tastes like.
But I'm saying it doesn't taste like rye whiskeys that I'm used to.
Okay.
It's not. It doesn't have a big heat wave behind
Oh, I agree with that.
Where
I don't get spice.
Yeah, where most ryes, and I'm weird where I think most ryes are. I've always liked rye, and I think it's sweet. I think rye is a sweet grain to be distilled, but this is. I don't know. $70 is hard for me to justify it. I've never liked Canadian whiskey, so I'm biased. But
I'll tell you what, I picked this up at the Last Call store, and I wish they had some last week when I went. When they first opened the Last Call section of that store, they had Canadian Club, 100% rye.
Yeah.
It was $11.50 a bottle.
That's a good one that you
Holy
shared.
shit, it was fantastic.
Yeah, you
I
shared
still
that
have
with
one
me,
more bottle of it. It is.
I heard you guys raving about that.
It was fantastic, and it was $11.50. So every time I go there,
Yeah.
I'm hoping they have more of it because it was so good, especially for the money.
I do want to point out too that we talked about Nook a bit, and I just want to shout out to him because I think he's still tuning in. He says yes, he's been at New Holland for a bit. So if you guys didn't watch Nook on the podcast on his episode, look back a little bit either on Facebook on that page for the video, or go to the iTunes, Spotify, whatever the podcast is. It was actually great.
I saw their
It's a great podcast. Yeah, they have the Bourbon Barrel.
They can go to our Facebook page and just type in Nook, and then it'll come up. It's N-O-O-K.
And then behind us, between Jake and I, there's the Asylum 13 custom sign that he actually donated to the podcast. Also, the fact that if you're just tuning in now, I assume he said he's been at New Holland for a bit, so he's still at New Holland, which is possibly in spring or summer our first off-site podcast.
Put the guys and gals on New Holland and show them the podcast right now.
I'm pretty sure that's what he's doing. That's why I want to say this, is that we appreciate the guys in New Holland. Nook, if they're not watching with you, if you can actually share it with them at least to tell them that we are saying thank you for including us, because they're doing a Dragon's Milk cigar again, but on a different side of things. It's not going to be quite the same as last time, and Nook, correct me if I'm wrong, but and then New Holland also reposted our picks from the night on their
They did. They did. That was
fantastic.
Cool.
I've got.
That's what we're looking for. So if you're part of any of the whiskeys, if you know someone that is representing or is involved in the bourbons, whatever the whiskey, the rye, whatever it might be, share it with them. So that they know that they're getting some love out there, or at least they're getting some feedback. We don't love all the whiskeys, but at least we're speaking honestly about it and how it pairs with cigars.
I've got 3 bottles of the New Holland Hatter Royale, which is a Centennial hops flavored whiskey.
That's right.
I brought that in.
Is that weird one that's
it looks
almost
like
yellow?
It looks like green tea.
Yeah. I love how we just kind of pump up New Holland, and then Jake's first response is that weird one?
No.
It is fucking weird.
But it does back up the fact that we speak honestly about it.
Yeah.
And you had said this too. That Centennial, that Hatter Royale, on a hot day, couple cubes of ice in a glass.
I'm sure it's refreshing.
Oh my gosh, it goes down smooth and straight up.
Yeah.
Put a couple ice cubes in. I've got 3 bottles of it at home. It's at the Last Call store by my office. $12.50 or $13 a bottle.
Grab it for the spring or summer. We can do something.
I've got 3 bottles.
If you haven't figured out, Nate is a huge guy on discounts.
If I can get a bottle of whiskey that I like, if I can get anything I like on discount, especially whiskey, you can't go in a state regulated where we live. It's like you're not going to get catch something on a sale normally. It's like I walk into today and I bought the Bullet Riders, save $2, and I was like, you're not really cutting me a break. That's just got to be a mandated thing at this point.
Well,
how many ryes do you have in here?
3. So the last time I went to that store, which was last Monday, they had Hudson Manhattan Rye and Hudson Baby Bourbon on the shelf, the 750 bottles, and they're $45-$50 a piece. And they had the Manhattan Rye half-fifths for $21. So if you compare a $50 fifth, $21 half fifth, you're saving $8 buying 2 of these. So I bought 4.
Did you yell that?
That's how they get you.
I did.
I did want to note that my good buddy Tyler Jones, he said I'm in El Paso, so I forgot about the time difference, but he's here.
Well,
thank you for tuning in from El Paso.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And that's something I was just sending a message to Mark. Yeah, Mark. So I saw him tune in. So again, if you're listening to the audio, and I know you guys can't, not everyone can tune in live, but if you are free on Wednesday nights, this is a lot of fun because I see Mark, get on there, and then I said, "What's up, Mark?" We spoke about LOD, the Line of Duty cigars. So Mark, if you're still on there, give us a shout on the feed here. And hopefully share it again, because the guys at Line of Duty definitely love you, and I think we had a couple of responses from people on Line of Duty that we discussed earlier before you tuned in, so appreciate that. So, you want to talk about more? Or
nope.
Going a cigar here.
Yeah, I think that's about time.
I'm going to save it for you live viewers on our audio. Ready, Steve?
Yeah. So with the Magic Toast, it's interesting. Talking to Ryan Ponist, which I was talking about earlier. Ryan Ponist is our rep for Alec Bradley here in the Ohio area, and he's fantastic. He really does a lot for us. He definitely backs us up on a lot of things. He wants to be a part of the whatever we're going to call it, Smoking Tent Event 6.5. Let's call it that. But he wants to be a part of it, just like a lot of people.
Half?
What? Yeah.
Okay.
It means it's not like last year at this point, the Smoking Tent event, we were about 250 plus tickets sold.
Yeah.
Right now, we don't have a written confirmation that we can do the Smoking Tent event, so that's why I'm saying if we do something, it will be
scaled back a little bit.
It'll be scaled back a little bit, but I'm like I said earlier, I've got about 8 ideas for a party that may not ever happen.
If you build it, they will come.
All right, thanks, Kevin Costner. But my whole thing, so Ryan's fantastic, and when this came out, we had an event on the patio next door at Fidel Irish Pub and Restaurant, and he had these available. So, like, not for everyone, but he had some samples for us, which was fantastic. So I smoked it, and I was like, man, that thing is very rich. And it's interesting because smoking this with the Mastersons that we're drinking, it actually mutes the cigar, but I think the cigar is influencing the whiskey more, and we'll get back to what we think on the pairing of it. We did have Scott West says, hey Steve, love the Magic Toast, great burn. Alec Bradley rep is awesome, great guy. So Scott, thank you for tuning in. I know you stopped in the shop the other day, so I mean, again, we appreciate that, and I agree. I really enjoy this cigar. This has and it's very, very brief information that I find online and talking even to Ryan.
It's so new, ain't it?
Well, it's newer, but it's like you talk, so here's what I know about it. It's a Honduran, like a very dark Honduran wrapper. It's made at the Raíces Cubanas factory, which was founded in 1941. They had that cigar, Alec Bradley, distributed, blended a cigar called Raíces Cubanas, and it had on that band 1941. So with this one, it's coming out of that factory. It's got a Honduran wrapper, and then it's got a double binder, 2 binders, Honduran, Nicaraguan, and then it's also got Honduran and Nicaraguan in the filler. So with that being said, that's really all I know on this. And the Magic Toast name, from what I understand,
Great story.
is it?
I thought so, at least when I heard Ryan say it.
Well, what did you hear Ryan say?
I can't remember, I just know that I really enjoyed the story.
See, I've heard like 3 different stories, but the one when I was going back and looking this up as far as that goes, because I didn't really reach out to Ryan today, but it was something along the lines of toasting to the future of the company, which is different than what I had heard before, which was something about the tobacco that they found, you know what I mean, at night and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, they looked up at the stars and saw that, yeah.
So that's where it's like, I don't know exactly.
That sounds like something you would read on the label of a whiskey bottle.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I'd love to see it written on the cigar of the band.
Well, I will. So anyways, like that was the whole thing. The story that he's at least on the press release that I know about, so not just through the industry, like
I know,
but
it's just funny.
Was literally that he toasted, into the future of the company and everything, and that was the Magic Toast. That being said, I've also heard rumor that this is basically the Tempest Maduro rebranded, which I don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that's the case, and Alan, Alec, or Bradley are listening at some point, I don't know if that's the case, but that is a rumor that's going around, and I disagree with it, so I might be wrong. And good for you guys that you guys actually rebranded a cigar so well that I don't taste what I tasted with the Tempest Maduro, but I think this is a great cigar, and it's a very muted box, which I don't have with us, but the band and inside the box
psychedelic
is gorgeous, and that actually goes along with the story that Jake's talking about
with the stars.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was something where like they actually toasted. That's where they get the Magic Toast, and they talk about it. The story for the artwork, and it's like kind of a night scene with a very intricate set of artwork along with all of it. It's actually very, very pretty. So again, for those of you that actually enjoy the creativity that goes behind a lot of the marketing and the branding of these cigars, this is one that, when you say Magic Toast, you might kind of laugh at the name, not knowing what it is, but when you look at the band, it's actually very elegant in my opinion.
Was this one done by Alec and Bradley?
This one, as far as I know, the only one that's done by, so for those of you that aren't familiar with Alec Bradley cigars, Alec Bradley, it's not a guy.
Not a guy.
It's not a guy. So Alec Bradley was actually founded by Alan Rubin. Mm-hmm. That's Alan, not Alec. And it's Alan Rubin, and Alan had 2 sons, Alec Rubin and Bradley Rubin. Mm-hmm. And so he founded this cigar brand, and forgive me because I don't recall what he what industry he was in before this, but he's been in the cigar industry for quite some time. but he founded the brand name under his two sons. They're of age now where they're in their 20s, maybe 30. I don't know how old Alec is, but so these are now they're starting to get in.
For sure.
They're becoming more the face of it. Like so, I'll tell you a quick side story here. That was it Alec.
Was it the 10 event one?
There's 2 10 event stories.
Yeah.
Last year
you told
Bradley.
You told the one where
Alec.
The Q&A session.
He was part of the Q&A session that year. So Alec it was his first big multi-vendor event, and Ryan Pontus, who we mentioned, thought that he was getting fired that night because he got a text from Alan. So stay with us here. Is that Alan, the dad, who's the owner of the company? He actually texted Ryan Pontus and said, how's Alec doing? And he said he's on stage right now. He texted back, he's on stage right now, he's doing great. And all of a sudden his phone started to ring. And it was Alan, again the dad, the owner, and he says, "What's going on?" And he's like, "No, Alex said that he'd be on the stage with Eric Espinosa, Omar, Dan Welsh, Nish Patel, Ricky Rodriguez, some of the who's of the industry, and then you have Alec Rubin on the stage where he's like just now hitting his first multi-vendor, and God bless him, he actually did well. And the guys up there, the other 5 or 6 guys that were up there, actually really kind of built him up. Supported him. So that was a funny story, and he did really well. The very next year, Alec wasn't coming, but Bradley was coming.
Yeah.
And these guys actually blended a new cigar called Blind Faith, which is, so this one, from my understanding, is not blended by them. Blind Faith is, which we don't carry, and it's kind of more of it's available, but it's a little more exclusive cigar. We did not bring it on Tinder Box. We wanted to see if it actually caught on a little bit because, when we smoke these cigars, we support Alec Bradley cigars quite a bit, but that blend and everything else, we just weren't 100% behind, unfortunately.
One thing I do want to say, Steve, is like, it's probably be really good if we could get Ryan Pontus on and talk about
call him out on
freaking Alec Bradley.
He actually said that.
Look, like he talks constantly, but yet he can't sit on a podcast and doesn't want to sit on a podcast.
He literally said that he doesn't want to be on. Like he does want to be on, but he doesn't want to be on. So like that was one of the things we were texting actually right before we started recording because again I was talking to him about this mythological smoking tenement 6.5.
He's hilarious.
And he is hilarious.
I mean, he's a great guy.
When I said Magic Toast on the podcast tonight, he said, "Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that and line that up when I get a chance." And I said, "No, we're doing the Magic Toast tonight on the podcast, and you might have to we'll have to pick out something else when we get you scheduled on." So hopefully you'll get to meet him because he's fantastic. Here's the follow-up story if we want to talk about Bradley Rubin.
This past year.
So Bradley Rubin, he, I think, from what I understand, he's more of the so Alec is more business in the sense of the classic conservative business and very not rigid or anything like that, but he's more the older brother, right? Much like my older brother is, honestly. And then you have the more personality driven and more of the influencer. Well, the influencer side of things, I mean, like they're both kind of got a little bit of that driver personality, but at the same time, it's like I think Alec is more like the driver / either compliant. You know what I mean? When you're looking at the personality profiles, and then you have the more driver influencer in Bradley, right? So he's more just like gung ho and going forward, and. So Bradley was there, and he did a great job. He was not, I don't want to say quiet, but they're both kind of like reserved because they're newer. But then as the night went on, they did well. We had the after party on front of Fido after we got shut down, or not shut down, but basically we had to adapt, and we talked about that on previous podcasts, the last Smoking 10 event. And then towards the end of the night, we're all on the front patio of the pub we were at for this Fido Irish pub. And so Ryan and Bradley are just like, "What are you doing later?" And I'm like, "No ideas. We're just hanging out here probably till they close, and it's like midnight, 12:30." And I said, "Probably just end up back in the garage where we're at right now." And so, anyways, long story short, we end up back here. and it is me, Ryan, Bradley. You weren't here, were you?
No.
I think my roommate Connor was here, and I forget who else, but basically that night ended where it was just like late, like 3 or 4 in the morning, and I got Bradley Rubin here, and I brought out, at the time I had a bottle of Blanton's that was about half full, so I bring that out, and we're drinking Blanton, we're drinking other stuff too, and then Ryan tapered off so they could get themselves back to the hotel all right, but basically I thought at that point, we'll never have another Reuben at the Smoky Tenement because we almost got a rep fired the year before, and then I had the younger son who is of age. Now, I didn't have him hammered. He was old enough.
It's not like Steve was putting a funnel on his mouth.
No, we're sitting in the middle of the garage.
You don't
where
really
we're
need
at
to
right now.
do that when you put Blanton's on a table.
Well, that was so my point was that we have one year where it's like his first multi-vendor event. The older brother is on the stage with some of the who's who's in the industry, and he's holding his own, which was fantastic apparently for him. So that's a win on our side. And then the next year, I've got the younger son in the manager of the Tinder Box's garage, just drinking whiskey until 3 or 4 in the morning, smoking cigars and just talking shop and talking about dominating the world type thing. So I figured I'd get like a text personally from Alan Rubin, who I met at Cigar Fest, and being like, "You can never have anyone from my family
in the garage again
in Columbus, Ohio, maybe Ohio." So we'll maybe have Ryan available. Ryan Potter.
No, we need Ryan. Like
he's great.
I'm calling him out because he always wants to talk and gives everybody shit when he comes into the shop. He's a great rep for Alec Bradley.
He's fantastic.
But then we ask him to come on, and we have like we've done the Black Market Esteli on here with Nate the last time. We've done the Magic Toast. Like, where are you?
I got Prensado in my case.
Yeah, well, don't smoke it until it gets on here.
Oh,
exactly.
That's all I'm saying. But what do you guys think of the Magic Toast?
I think it's great. I think it's a good. The first time I tried it, and Ryan gave it to me in a shop, the rep, and I was a bit nervous because it was going to be my first cigar of the day, and it's because it's a very, very full body cigar, I think. But what I like about it is the fact that what was the blend again?
So you have a Honduran, dark Honduran wrapper, and then you have a double binder Honduran Nicaraguan, and fillers Honduran Nicaraguan.
See,
that's all I really know. I don't know seeds, I don't know anything else, but that's all they're going to release that I know of.
But that makes sense because that's where the spice is coming from. I think that, again, I don't retrohale, but I think just off the taste, off the aroma, I think it's a spicy cigar, but it's also a rich, creamy, full body cigar. I think this is a good smoke for someone like if you're having a last smoke of the evening, and you pull out like not like a super heavy whiskey or something, but something that like 95 proof or 90 proof and that has rich flavor. I think that this would pair well with it. However, I don't think that this pairs well with a rye.
Really?
I don't.
I think this might pair better with like the Russell's Reserve Rye, because that Russell's Reserve Rye has enough flavor and spice to stand out on its own.
Yeah.
I think this Masterson's a little too light for this cigar. The first time I smoked the cigar when we got in the shop,
but like Steve just handed me a Bullet Rye, and like I'm drinking that right now, and with the Magic Toast, it's good.
Well, give me about 30 seconds.
It's good. Well, while you do that, I'll keep talking.
Well, go ahead.
But I think
I can talk and pour at the same time.
That's impressive.
That is impressive. That is multitasking.
In about 2 hours, you may not be able to. That's all I'm saying.
What I was saying.
That's not our goal here.
No,
but
I didn't say that. I'm just saying.
When we got it in the shop, working at the shop, a lot of times I tend to smoke a longer smoke, just that way I don't smoke as many during a 4-hour shift.
Well, I'm with you too.
I'll smoke maybe 2 during a 4-hour shift. So after I had my first cigar, my second cigar, I had the Magic Toast, but I got the 660 instead of the Robusto that we're smoking on.
Yeah.
When I smoked the 660, I thought it was a little lighter. There wasn't a whole lot of depth of flavor to it.
That ring gauge definitely lightens it up.
It does, and which is normal. A lot of times, not all cigars.
That was more dramatic, though, in my opinion.
It is. I like the Robusto, so I probably like the Toro as well.
Smoke the Toro because I think it's a 6x52 ring gauge.
Okay, but I definitely get more flavor than especially on the retro. I get more of that pepper.
And where are you at right now? Like let's.
He's almost done. I mean, he's a quarter left.
Yeah, but still half to a quarter, right? So you're.
You and I are about the same.
But I'm saying though, like for a Robusto, we're an hour into recording. This is also a slow burner.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, it is.
If you're just sitting there, like kind of with your thoughts, and you're not really talking or anything else. But I've noticed that Dustin behind the camera has relit a bit, so maybe they're not 100% there, but. I have not. I just did because I was talking for a moment about the cigar.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I haven't had to do a whole lot of relights to this thing. This is it crawls a bit.
It's a dense cigar and it's got great construction to it. I just think this is not a beginner cigar at all.
No, the construction's great. I think the ash is actually a little on the lighter side. It's a little on the softer, flakier side.
Yeah, I get that.
Like, this is not the kind of cigar you want to sit there and have an ash contest with.
This is not one necessarily to that point. You don't necessarily smoke it in your car unless you got an ash can that you're holding it over.
Yeah.
I mean these are all things that you may have to look at.
Brian Fear.
But then again, I've smoked cigars before where a 1/4 inch ash, you better start finding an ashtray.
Yeah. Because
it was already starting to fall and flake off. This, you can get a little bit further than that, but it's still a lighter ash. But again, burns well, burns slow. It's a longer smoking cigar, even for the Robusto size. But
so do me a favor, both of you. I know, Jake, your glass is empty right now. Feel free to refill it. But I'm saying, like, take a moment. No, take a moment from. But you haven't.
I just did.
I haven't drank.
While it tastes in my mouth, what was it?
Well, what I'm saying is smoke the cigar for a couple minutes here without taking a drink of the whiskey.
Oh, I haven't had a drink in a couple minutes of this.
Yeah, I mean, the cigar
on its own
is
great.
Really, really just opens everything up. I mean, it's a very, what I consider, I don't know, it's one of those things like I consider like some of the Christophs do it too. The GC from Christoph, it just coats your mouth. When you're not drinking whiskey, it's something that if you just have water, if you have a normal everyday, afternoon drink, or by itself, you're going to need a drink of water because it just overpowers the roof, the sides, tongue, everything, even almost the back of your mouth. It's not like this abrasive or in my opinion, for me, it's not this unwanted kind of overwhelming. It's just simply that this is one. It coats your mouth.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's the flavor.
I mean, not numb, but I mean, it's...
And it has a little dryness, which is what I was saying earlier about the Mastersons. I think that brought that out. I'd love to try the Mastersons. That's why if we cut that off now and you bring it back, Nate, and we actually do that when we're not smoking a cigar like this, that would be interesting to try that. Just fresh, mild cigar, mild to medium, something where you're just not going to be, bound. But I think that stands by itself. This does too, but actually the two of them actually subdue is what I'd imagine, because I've smoked the Magic Toast. I haven't had Mastersons by itself.
What do you mean, like
I think it's subdued. So it's like you have the Magic Toast and the flavor profiles up here, right? High, and it coats your mouth, right? And you have the Mastersons. What I would assume, if we had it by itself, the flavors that we had tonight would be a little more elevated. Maybe bring something else out. If this isn't going back and forth with it, if the Magic Toast is not going back and forth with it. So that's what I'm saying. Like when I say subdued, you have Magic Toast up here, Mastersons here. I think when we're drinking and smoking, the Magic Toast drops a bit, and maybe the Mastersons does too. But I think when you smoke, in my opinion, I think when you smoke the Magic Toast, it is like full flavor. It is just
it's great
all
by
over
itself.
you.
It's
right?
great by itself.
Mastersons, I think we might be selling short. I'm going to say this. I think we might be selling short because we are drinking it with a Magic Toast. And that'd be interesting. I'm not saying negative about the Magic Toast. I'm saying that it's something that might really shine by itself.
So I waited 8 months to crack that. I think if you really want, I can hold off on drinking the rest of the bottle.
We will drink this. So keep that corked until 2025, and then we will have it.
I will make no such promise.
If you do, keep it in a cool
place.
My
wife was surprised that in a week and a half, I already drank a 1/2 of the Hudson Manhattan Rye.
It's good though.
I'm like, it's a half a bottle. And I took it to the shop on Saturday.
It's child size. Just tell her it's child size.
It's fun size.
It's fun
Fun
size.
size.
Whatever.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Steve, because, and we'll do it again, but just so you guys get to experience. But like, Nate and I were drinking it before. At least for me, I didn't light up the Magic Toast until I had just probably an ounce of it. And initially, again, I thought that it just dried out my mouth. And I think it's good. I don't think it's $70 good. And that's subjective, so don't, take my word for it.
But that's why they're tuning in. I mean, we want to know what we think.
But with the Magic Toast, it just is so...
It's overpowered.
It's so dry. It's not like... It's almost like if you put too much pepper on something that you're eating, that's what it feels like.
You can't taste the food.
You can't taste the food.
That kind of reminds me a little bit of when you guys had Brad on and did the backyard barbecue from Booker's with the Oliva V. Both on their own, individually, fantastic.
That was a heavyweight battle.
That was just not even...
But what I'm saying is both on their own, they're fantastic. You put them together and...
That was Tyson Holyfield going at it.
In your mouth.
At 90 degrees.
That was not even pleasant by any means. Like, it didn't taste good. It wasn't okay.
The conversation wasn't?
No, the pairing.
Later in the night, the conversation also wasn't that good either.
It always is when we have Bookers on, because it's 128 proof, but at 45 proof, and I can appreciate what they did. I think it's
45%.
45%, yeah, 90 proof.
Yeah.
I can appreciate what they did, and I can appreciate the story of what they did. It's kind of like Boone County, where they grabbed a hold of a story, and because they're trying to, take away from the sourcing and, move the made by ghost air quotes.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
okay.
I think with the
I
bottle.
love Boone County, but
I
it's
do
just
too,
the
but
story
that was
has
one
nothing.
thing.
The story has nothing to do with how the whiskey was produced,
Yeah.
and it's shitty. I think.
Greg Sanston, actually, so Greg's on, he's still on here, so I don't know if anyone knows Greg Sanston. He's actually a local to Columbus, Ohio, in Tinder Box Easton. He says, Steve.
Oh, now I know who that is.
Watch Nate's, you know this based off this. Watch Nate's boot. He'll kick you under the table when he gets too much to drink. What happened? Were you playing footsie with him?
No.
Greg, you tell us. Was he playing footsie with you?
No, I'll tell you. I'll tell you, and I'll be honest.
Jeez.
So, I appreciate the honesty.
So I was sitting at one of the high top tables, and
Alright.
Greg was standing there. Greg's a little shorter guy.
You say it like to the camera.
He's not Todd.
How tall are you, Nate?
I'm 5'9".
Greg's 3'8".
So he's 5'5".
Yeah.
Cool.
But based on your description, he's about 3.6.
So,
Jeez.
so Greg was standing there, and Greg was making jokes and wisecracks and whatnot, and
As he does.
Yeah, I lifted my foot, and I was like, my foot is at the right height to kick you in the balls, Greg. And I didn't kick you, but I was like, my foot's right there at that height. And then about 30 seconds later, I lifted my foot up again, and I'm wearing alloy toe Timberlands.
By the way, he also chimed in recently. He says, fuck you, Nate.
Yeah.
Wow.
Continue your story.
So I lift my foot up again,
All right.
and so these
Here we go.
These have a thick crepe sole on them. So I'm 5'9". I wear these Timberlands, and I'm like 6 foot.
Yeah, Tom Cruise shoes.
Yeah, not white, but I get what you're going.
Yeah.
But I lift my foot again, and the very tip of the sole just catches his tip.
Of what?
What do you think?
I think it's
okay,
his
cool.
penis.
There you go.
I just.
Oh, that's the word we're not allowed to say on the podcast?
Yeah, there you go.
So I just lightly bring my foot up and tap, and then all of a sudden and he started talking, and then about 2 seconds into him talking, he's like, "Oh!" Like it was there was a delay from when he felt it.
No, there's definitely a delay when you get frapped.
Yeah. So
That's the phrase?
Yeah, frapped.
Huh, interesting.
The ball tap.
Yeah, all right.
bing.
The bing.
Yeah. So I lifted my foot up, not trying to catch him, but
Succeeded though.
the
regardless.
tip of my Timberlands
Hit his tip, as you said. That's very elegant.
Yes. So that was Yeah. So then later on, when we're sitting across from each other, I was like, "Hey, you better quit running your mouth. My foot's right." So you sitting cross-legged the rest of the night.
Well, folks, you wonder why I said interesting at the beginning of the podcast, and this is...
We're not even on the topic yet.
I know, but it's always interesting. It can always be interesting. That's why you should tune in every Wednesday when we do this. And for the audio listeners, it drops on Spotify, YouTube, and iTunes, and Overcast on Android devices, all on Friday. But
right.
For the most part, it's on Wednesday. So come join the community that we have on Facebook on Wednesday evenings for Whiskey Wednesday. So we're going to be saving stuff.
I
Facebook
just shared
Live.
a bunch of like topic time stuff. Yeah.
So we're going to be saving this audio. Ready? So getting into our topic of the night, why do you want what you want? Again, this was one of those weeks where, we've been doing a lot with scheduling. We've been doing a lot with trying to do different things that we've had on our task sheets.
Right.
With the shirts. Steve's been busy with Smoking 10 event.
The
house. Your
new job.
Everything. And this is why the topic's point of the podcast is so great, is that you're talking to real people, we're real about it, we're honest about it. So This week was one of those weeks where last night we didn't know the topic until about 9 o'clock. So,
however, so that was one of the things that, what was it? What night was it that I sent out, 5 or 6? Saturday?
Probably.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it was Saturday night. We were hanging out in the shop late, Jake and I were, and as we're talking, I about 2-something in the morning, I just start writing out a text to, because Nate's on there, Jake and Dustin, and I just start rattling off in my brain. It was 5, maybe 6 topics, and I just was like, this, enter, this, enter, this, enter, this, enter, and it was I just sent it out there. Didn't say anything to Jake as I'm sitting across from him. I just was I'm going to throw these out in the universe and see what sticks. And it did take us till Tuesday to lock it down.
Shows you how much I pay attention to my phone anymore.
You're busy, man. You're busy.
Well, it just means probably at that time I opened it up, looked at it, and then there was no red bar saying 1 on the message app on the iPhone.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, there's nothing there. Anyways, we came up with this topic, why do you want what you want? And, thinking about it, most of the time it comes down to, Steve has a lot of great ideas on what the topic should be. And honestly, as long as Steve can talk about it, I can think of something. But at first, this was one of the things where I thought the title was a little bit wordy. I didn't understand, what the hell am I going to talk about, right? But so thinking about it today, why do you want what you want? It's interesting because we can go a lot of different routes. And I know that in our listeners and you guys and gals, it can go a lot of different ways with a topic like this. But I think when you're talking about something like this, think about it. Decipher it why do you want what you want? So if you want the lifestyle, if you want the riches, do you want the body? Do you want the money? Do you want the family? Do you want the love? Do you want all these things? The question is really why. And obviously we all have our different whys as to what we do and why we want what we want. And because the attraction is there, right? And most of the time, unfortunately, it comes down to something either we see on social media or something someone says to us or something that we see out in the world and we say, that's what I want to be like, or that's what I want to portray my life to be. And, and I don't want to get negative on it because it's not a negative subject, it's a positive subject. But I think while we're talking about this, I think it's important to understand that I think it's a problem where a lot of people portray their lives in a different way because they think they should. And I just want to say, money and the glamorous lifestyle and the things that you want to post on Instagram and Facebook doesn't make you who you are.
Okay.
And that is the main point that I want to drive home. But on the other hand, I think that you should strive for your greatness, your style of greatness. How do you define greatness? For me, for instance, I think a lot of people see me in the hat, the fedora, the vest, and stuff like that, and it's really not a persona. It's just what I like, and that's simply as it is. I'm not trying to be someone else. However, I do love like Prohibition style movies, the 20s, the 30s, and the 40s, and everyone always wore a suit. Everything was always twill or wool. I think it's a very interesting time. So I want to, and I'm very old school, so I want to bring back that style, and I think it's coming back. But that's why I wear what I wear, and unfortunately, those things cost money. And when people and when you're wanting to, I don't want this style because I saw somebody and I was like, I want to look like that. I want this style because this is what I think looks good on me. This is what I like wearing. Right. And I think that's a main point, and that can go into every direction that we want to.
Well, I think you're scratching the surface, and I think you summarized that very well. The whole point of this is focusing on the why. So you can rationalize it, you can all that stuff, but as soon as you dive into why you want, what's that? All right, Nate has to go to the bathroom. Go ahead.
Well, you guys keep talking.
Oh, you don't want me to say it on the air?
No, you guys keep talking.
All right, so Nate's going to the bathroom.
And Bobby Crow said Jake loves Tom Hardy, and I do.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
All right, hang on. So the whole thing of the idea of this concept, you actually hit fucking like 80-90% of it, you know what I mean? But I think the biggest thing is when you actually drill down to why you want what you want, whether it be fashion, right? So like you're talking about like the way you dress and the things you want, you're talking about social media and things like that. You didn't bring up, your upbringing. You didn't bring up, why. So it's like, yeah, you like that. You like this style or whatever. You like the Prohibition era, but why? I mean, this is that 5-year-old that's talking, like when they ask you a question, you're like, why do you do that? And you can say, well, it's because I like Prohibition. Why? Well, because I really am interested in the history of it, and I like drinking whiskey. Why? You know what I mean? It's like this resounding thing when it's actually an inquiry.
Is this your sociology and psychologically coming?
Mostly sociology.
Philosophy coming into play.
Mostly sociology, and that's where this topic came from. But I mean, and then you have like Bobby Crow saying it's inbred in us since the 60s. Got to one-up people, insecurity. So he's chiming right into what you're saying. My point is that I think when we talk about like the greater understanding of why we want what we want, there are a lot of things that come into play that you may not always put as the priority that's the most important, right? So you sacrifice things that may be important because you want something a certain way. The easy picking fruit is that social media, you know what I mean? Why do you want that body? Why do you want to like have a lot of followers in this day and age? Why do you want to have that house? Why do you want to have those clothes? Why do you want to drive that car? Why do you want to do what you want to do? But when you actually look back and figure out why you do want those things, you can start reassessing, in my opinion, of the reasons you want those things, and then it's a matter of how do you get those things. So that was the whole thing of the whole idea of it is that if you can have a greater understanding of why you want the things you want, then you can figure out, is it really important? And if it is, why? And then if it is, how do you get there other than the easy ways to do it? Like, you know what I mean? Like I've had the experiences where I've had to, why do you want to smoke the good cigars? Why do you want to smoke cigars? Why do you want to, hang out in the cigar shop? Why do you want to drink the fine whiskeys? Those are the free, fruit on the tree for us to talk about because we've all got a cigar in our hand and a whiskey in our glass. And it's like, why do you want that? I think it has a good I guess you analyze yourself to a point where when you're doing that, if you open yourself up to have a greater understanding.
It's like a self-realization.
Yeah, but exactly. You have a greater understanding of why you want what you want, and I think you can grow from that. And that was the whole idea of that topic on the list. Like I said, I think Jake, he has a great grasp of it, you know what I mean? It's like 80-90% of it, but the other side of it is the all-encompassing, and you're right, it is the sociology side of it for me, is that the socialization, it's that nature versus nurture. That's a great, and we could have named it that, nature versus nurture, and gotten into the same topic of why do you want what you want, but suggested something different. But I think it's like nature versus nurture. Why do you want what you want?
It's just in my mind, like, if the nature versus nurture, I'm not looking at it as, well, obviously, like I said that, but I'm not looking at it as like the deeper levels, because if we want to go down to that level, it's like one of those things where if I say, okay, well, Steve, you wanted a house, why'd you want a house?
Absolutely. I think that's a great
But why? Answer the question. Like, why do you want a house?
So
why do you think you need a house?
We're not talking about need. We're talking about want, in my opinion, right? So the reason I wanted a house is because so my life going back, a ways back, is because I was raised in a household that we lived in a house. We owned a house, and that was back in a generation. So my parents were both born in the 40s.
Yeah.
And so you go way back there, and even before that, they were raised by a generation that were born in the early 1900s, maybe late 1800s, but typically early 1900s. And the country was still going a different way, at least in the U.S. So for me now, you have a lot of different things. I was coming out of college, and I bought my first house when I was 2004, when I was 24 years old, with my ex-wife at the time was girlfriend. And she had her checklist of things that she wanted to do. She wanted to, based on her upbringing, because of her positives and negatives, she wanted to have a graduate degree, undergrad, graduate degree, then get an apartment, then get a house, then get to pick a fence, then get a dog, then get married, then you have kids and all that stuff. Which
checklist.
Is the American dream, right? The checklist. We talked about that on previous podcasts. But so for me, there are a lot of positives that came from that. So now, fast forward, and you include a divorce. I've been in this house where we're actually recording this podcast, but I've been in this house for 7 or 8 years, renting $950 up to $1,000 a month. So do the math real quick on what renting that is.
Yeah.
Right? So then you also have to do the cycles that what happened, right? So the market crash in the US, 08, 09, 2010. I got divorced in 2010, 2011, around that time. And we refinanced the house for my ex, Candy, who we talked about, who does tune in time to time. We refinanced it as a team, and we bought the house for $160 in 2004. When we refinanced it, it was about 140, mid 140s was the appraisal on it. So then we had to use our savings as a divorcing couple to refinance that house. And then now, fast forward to where we're at now, that house should probably sell for $210 because the market goes up and down. So that's where it's like, for me, my thing is that I didn't need a house. I'm fine where I'm at, but it is at 38 years old, going into my 40s, if I have the ability to do so, whether it's by myself, I have family help after my dad passed away, and this is how I'm doing it, because I'm still technically by myself. I have a girlfriend that's helping out, paying. She's wanting to help out, and she's not forcing herself into the situation. Like, she's like, oh, this will be my house, but she's like, this is where we're at in our life, so this is like how she's positively impacting the transition. So this all made sense because the lease was coming up on this house. I had the ability to do so, but I also did this last year, and I re-signed the lease here because I couldn't find something that made sense.
Right.
And even now I do that because I feel like so why do we want what we want? That's where it's like, I feel like this is what I should do, because now at least I can spend about the same, $1,000, $1,100 a month in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm actually moving a street over, like we mentioned. Now, I do have to put money into the house because I want it to be a certain way, which, again, I'm stretching myself. Do I really need, I could move right in and be fine. But it's like, now that I'm doing it, it makes sense. I got a month to do it. So now it's like, all right, I got this amount of money that's from the seller. I can do this. And so I might as well do this, this, and this. For that, at my stage in life, it makes sense to me because it's a smart financial decision. Because now I actually have equity, and as I pay, if I live in this house for another 7 years, 5 to 7 years, I walk away like I'm leasing a car and I have zero. I'm clean.
Yeah.
But now I'm 45.
There's no investment.
There's no investment. There's no real negative other than there is no investment. I'm not hurting myself. I'm not helping myself. I still have a great credit score. I'm fine, but I'm not able to save. I'm not able to actually put money away. So if I had to bail because I lost my job, if I had something happen where I couldn't get income, at least I have that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it may not be much, but at the very least I have the last 5-7 years where I hope that the market is okay or at least stable, that I may not have the biggest gain from it, but at least I can walk away from that and be ahead, be positive, because life continues on, and I don't want to be in the same situation necessarily that I'm in now. And that's where, when you ask that question, why did I need a house? I didn't, but I feel like I'm finally back at a point in my life that I can, yeah, things will be tight at times, just like a lot of people, but if I really use that as my motivation, as something that I have my own house, my own land, I've got all sorts of problems that are going to happen. Anyone that's owned a house knows that it's just a matter of time before something else goes wrong. So you have to be, aware of that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of growth there.
Sure.
So that's where it's like I feel.
So are you wanting to grow yourself? I mean, you're like you talked about,
yeah,
diving down to it. Like why do you want what you want? You're wanting to grow yourself. That's the initial point.
So there's a lot of outside factors there as far as why, to the house thing. If I have the ability to do so, regardless of what those factors are, if I'm not overextending necessarily myself. Now, I am also, my roommate's moving in with me right now. Liz is going to stay over a bunch, but that's not part of the agreement. So if my roommate doesn't want to move in, moves out at some point, I need to have someone else there, because I don't want to get myself to a point where I'm really struggling by myself.
Yeah, of course.
So I chose a house, and I'm currently revamping a little bit of it within reason, within my connections. I'm doing that so that if say Connor moves out, I can actually have something where, hopefully within my network, so it's not a complete stranger, I can say, oh, you need a place to stay? I've got a room down in the basement. You walk in the house, you walk down the stairs, we have a common room down there, but you have your own bedroom, and you also have the laundry room right there, and you have storage down there.
Right.
There's a 2-car garage, so there's a 2-car driveway at the very least. You have a place to park your car off the street, and also you have a full bathroom downstairs for yourself. Like, that was one of the factors that really brought me into pulling the trigger. There is, and if I really wanted to go to the extreme, it's like, no, bottom floor is yours except our shared storage and laundry room area. I've got 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a kitchen that is also a common area. I don't have a kitchenette downstairs. But it's like one of those things that it's like, there is a limited amount of shared things. If I really, really needed that, and I didn't have a friend or a friend of a friend that I got along with, it's like, I'm your landlord. You live downstairs. But the fact is that after 2 years of looking at it, I feel as though that I made a wise decision within the means that I have currently to do that.
Yeah. What do you think, Nate? Like, going off of what we both said.
Well, the reason I like the topic, when Steve texted me like 5 different topics, this is the one that I liked.
Yeah, you did.
Because I was looking at it more from, okay, there's multiple reasons why we want what we want. A lot of it comes down to looking at what others have.
Yeah.
And then another part is, you personally looking at what your desires are outside of, separate from outside influence.
Yeah.
And so that's why, this topic, as you like to say, Jake, can go so many different routes, which is what I like, because this is unscripted.
Absolutely.
So we can talk about wherever the conversation flows. I kind of like you. I don't look much at the outside influence as to why I want the things I want. I want what I want because of what I like.
And who you are.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, and the great thing about that is it changes, or it has the ability to change.
As you grow, yeah.
Yeah. So, for instance, when my wife and I got married, I was born and raised in Columbus. My wife grew up in a very small town in northwest Ohio. She grew up on a farm. And so she wanted to live more on a farm, out in the country type thing. I wanted to live in the city.
Yeah.
But as I've gotten older, as I've grown, as I've had different life experiences, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to live in the city.
Right.
I'm the one,
Yeah.
You ever see that meme on Facebook where it shows like a little cabin out in the country, hills and woods and a pond and fields, and it's like, hey, you can have this house and 200 acres for free, you just can never watch football ever again. Could you do it? I'm the guy sitting there going, fuck yeah. Absolutely I could.
Yeah.
Or people, when the Mega Millions was up over $1 billion last year, hey, what would you do if you won that? You would never see my ass again.
Yeah.
I'm going to Wyoming or Montana. I'm buying a house, not a big house, just a house that has what I need. It'd have a, Buckeye Lounge, kind of like Brad's Longhorn Lounge. It'd have something like that.
More red. More scarlet.
Yes, more scarlet.
Yeah.
It'd have a gun vault.
There you go.
And then, a couple bedrooms, kitchen, nice kitchen, because my wife loves to cook.
There you go.
And then just a bunch of land for me to go hunt, shoot, do whatever I want to do. But I'd be, I kind of like that, being away, because...
Why? I mean, go back to that.
So
why do you want to be away? Why is that? Why is that what you want?
There are especially with social media, there's so much negativity out there. Sometimes being around certain people or listening to certain people, and hearing all their negativity just brings me down.
Yeah.
So if I can take myself away from that, it makes me a happier person, makes me a better person.
Yeah.
And so if I could sit there and I could do that, or the other meme, hey, you can live in this house for free, you just can never use social media for a year. Could you do it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the first week after that year, you'd be a guest on our podcast again.
But I wouldn't be sharing it or watching it on...
It's a loophole.
All right, yeah, that's a loophole. I like that a lot.
I couldn't log into my Instagram or Facebook account or anything like that. But yeah, I could do that just because what is important to you?
Yeah.
That's actually a key point.
What's important to me is my family, making sure my family's taken care of, and doing the things that I want to do. Why have I worked 2 jobs for the past 5 years?
It's an excellent question.
Why
have you?
To be able to do the things that I want to do.
Yeah.
And this is,
whether it's buying a house, whether
Yeah.
it's buying a car or a better car, to be able to buy whiskey, cigars, guns, and all that stuff. That's why I do those things. That's why I stress myself out. Work like no one else now, so that way later on I don't have to work like anyone else.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Bust my ass now to get to where I want to be. So that way when I'm there, I don't have to bust my ass.
Right. Yeah. It works better if you figure that out when you're younger too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that's
your age.
Well, yeah, and that's why that's why I've worked 2 jobs ever since I graduated college.
Yeah.
And
And that's also part of who I am.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're just a worker, and Alicia and I, my girlfriend and I, have done the same exact thing. We both have 2 jobs. She just accepted a position at another job that's going to pay a little bit more. And it's not about the money, but it's a
congrats to her.
Yeah.
But it's be able to get to where you guys want to be.
But the best part about that is like what Steve said. Her why is that there's nowhere for her to grow at her present job.
Yeah.
Her main job. And when you have something that you see that could grow you, you go for it, even if it can be something that is, say, like $10,000 more a year. Like you just say yes. I mean, and Steve and Alicia talked about that one evening, in the garage. Like it wasn't a podcast night, but after, and but that's what they talked about. And I think it's interesting. And when I first made my opening statement, it was more about the things that I wanted, right? And but what it really dives down to, and Steve asked why. When I say I want to dress this way or this is my style, it's not because I think that I'm Al Capone. It's because I'm an old soul, and I've said that before. So the old souls in the world dress like that, and that's why I like whiskey. That's what a lot of people ask me why I like whiskey. Why does it infatuate my life Well, because I find it interesting. Why do we talk about it on the podcast all the time? Why can I pick out these different notes? Because each time it's a different experience. It's the same thing with the cigars, where one, they complement each other most of the time, and two, it's a different experience that a lot of people don't get to experience, I think, with our pairings. This is why we do it, and this is why we started it, and that's where, I think that's why, like, Steve and I, like, kind of hit it off as friends, and, I just made a post today where, on my personal page, where I said, Steve and I, it was a picture of Steve, and making a funny face back when we had Kyle, like, as a photographer, and it was great.
Kyle, you need to get back on there.
Yeah, it'd be great, and he's busy, but and he's got to do what he's got to do. But anyways, it was funny because that was what I was truly feeling at the time. Where you see everyone, and I follow a lot of people. We all follow a lot of people that are fitness nuts and bodybuilders and nutritionists, and that's great. But they get all these likes and all this exposure and everything, and then as soon as I post a nice picture of like a bottle of whiskey and tell the story about the whiskey, no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, it goes back to that quote where my friend Kelsey Linsman from Old School said, no one will care until they understand how much you care. And that's why I posted that today, because I said, Steve and I post something about like the Bourbon MBS podcast, or it was a funny
our
pic.
face,
when someone posts like a selfie at the gym, gets all this engagement, and then we post something about the Bourbon MBS podcast, and it doesn't get much engagement at all, and it's funny because it's just a different understanding, and until people understand why we do what we do, they won't appreciate it. And I think it's finally caught on after a year where people understand like how much we care about this stuff, but the deeper meaning as to why we do what we do is to figure out our own life shit, and to figure out, to help each other, to help our viewers, and to help our listeners. And I know we've said that a lot. It's just, I don't think it resonates with people all the time as much as it should.
Go ahead.
To your point, planning on being here last Saturday, I had posted something on social media to all the people that follow me, and asking like, hey guys, what are some topics that you would like to hear on the Bourbon BS podcast? To try and get other opinions from outside.
We have followers that we don't, right? I mean, personal and
no, I probably don't have anywhere near as many followers as you two do, but you
have followers though.
And so I was asking them like, hey, I've got like 560. And I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to be on Bourbon BS podcast. Here's what that podcast is about. We talk about a whiskey, we talk about a cigar, and then we spend most of the podcast talking about a life topic or life issue. What's something that you guys want to talk about? Nothing. Not a single comment.
Why do you think that is?
I honestly don't know. I mean, because I can see how many people watched it, but no one that watched it actually came up with any suggestions outside of YouTube.
This is kind of a side topic, but I think that Eric Black, welcome back, checking in again. I know he's got kids and everything like that. So again,
hi Eric, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, remind you guys listening to the audio, if you can come in on Facebook Live. You're watching this after the fact. I mean, we do watch our viewers, and I will say this. I mean, we've seen for the first time in a while that the viewership has gone down once you get to the topic. So I don't know if it's something unrelated or it's the topic, but feel free, please, to give us feedback on all that. But as far as you're asking, Nate, why don't you get people that are commenting when you actually put them, you go to them with the topics, right? I think it's easier, and especially in today's world, watching TV, watching Hulu, well, you can pick what you want. It's overload, right? So you don't have to really make a decision for yourself. You in a sense that what you want to listen to, or what you want to watch, what you want to be a part of, you just can choose what's out there. It's overload. So you might have a lot of supporters that are actually tuning in live, that tune in later. You share that you were on this podcast before or after the podcast, during whatever. And you might have people that actually give you feedback, whether it be positive or negative. Negative's usually the more common thing that people are able to give you critiques, even if it's not like 100% negative. Hey man, it was great seeing you on that podcast. You know, it's interesting. I didn't really dig the whole like whiskey part of it, but you know, it was cool to talk about the topic. Hey man, like I didn't really like the topic thing. It was kind of like just like three guys sitting around the garage, and you guys didn't really know what you were talking about. And you kind of wandered off. You know what I mean? But the first part was really good. You know what I mean? It's like you can hear all that stuff, but then you actually you ask either of those parties, say, hey, what would you want to hear?
They have no idea.
Fucking crickets.
Yeah.
Which is fine because that's where the creativity, that's what, again, Jake was talking about earlier, that's what we've tried to do here, is that we've had a lot of positive feedback, and we feel like we've had some impact with people that actually do want to have a conversation with people. They want to sit down, they want to either drink some whiskey, they want to smoke cigars, or they want to like hear perspective on topics that they may not even have known they wanted to hear perspective, but it's something that, Christian Summer, who I've not seen on tonight, and I haven't seen him in a couple episodes, so I don't know what's going on with him right now in his life, but he commented one time. So he and I used to work together years ago, and he's still in the Columbus area. He knows I'm at the Tinder Box at Easton. He came in one time at his lunch break. He's like, man, I just, I don't need any cigars. I just want to let you know that, like, I really love what you're doing. You and Jake are doing this podcast, and it's really, what's interesting is that no matter what's going on in my life that week, and he smokes cigars sometimes, he drinks whiskey sometimes, but he's not like an avid proponent of either of those things. He said, no matter what's going on in my life, these topics that you guys are talking about, and the way the conversation goes, the Facebook Live thing, all this stuff, somehow, and this was like, he's like, it's like 5 weeks in a row, and this is months ago. He's like, 5 weeks in a row, I really enjoyed the conversation because it absolutely hit what was going on with my life. He's got a wife and kids and house and all that stuff. Jake's 23 with a girlfriend. Like starting a new job and all that stuff. I'm where I'm at in my life, so it's like we are 3 different stages between Jake, myself, and Christian. But somehow it was like one of those things that of all the things he could do on a Wednesday night, or whenever he listens to the podcast after the fact, he could relate to it. And he's like, I don't know if it's because I know you. And this is how he said it. He's like, I don't know if I know you because I know you, but it's like, it's just the fact that I have some familiarity of what we're talking about. And all the other things outside of that seem so scripted, and I listen to podcasts, and there's a message they're trying to get across. But something about what you guys are doing on the Bourbon BS podcast, there's something that I want to tune in when I can.
Yeah.
I think it's a very valid point. But at the same time, if I texted him and say, hey, what do you want to listen to? What do you want? What topic do you want? He might be able to, but he's really got to search deep to be like, shit, what do I tell Steve that I want to like have as a topic or whatever. It's not because he can't think of it. It's there's other factors to it, right? I can't think of it, or I think of something, but like, oh no, that's stupid. Like Nate won't want me to like give him that topic because then he might do it, and then he's gonna do it because he likes me as a friend or family member, and then I'm gonna feel bad because he does it, and it's not a good podcast because they don't have much to talk about. But he pushed. There's like this inner struggle where it's like I don't know, and it's like panic mode.
People suck with making decisions. I mean, we all do.
Absolutely.
How many times on a Saturday night after the shop has closed have the 3 of us or 4 of us been sitting around the shop like, hey, let's try and come up with some topic ideas, and we just sit there and stare at each other, smoke cigars, and drink whiskey.
Until 2:15 in the morning when I just texted out some buzz and I'm like, hey, I got 5 topics, boys, here.
Yeah, but that's like
just vomit all over you guys and be like, did anything, wait, let me read back, did it make sense? Yeah, no.
But that
makes sense. Man, I sound smart.
That's the best time to do it. That's the best time to do it because I have that same exact thing, and like I started writing down things because I noticed when I would get buzzed, it takes away, and I'm not saying like
the walls come down.
Yeah, the walls come down. You stop saying, right. Wait a second, is this good or bad? You're just writing, and I started doing that, and it's much like I heard Chris Stapleton one time say in an interview, country artists say that when he was writing songs, he would when he was first started writing songs, he the best songs came out when he was absolutely tanked. And for some artists, unfortunately, that is the way that they have to do things. But maybe it's not healthy and people can say what they want, but the creativity and the value that comes out of an event like that, I think, is unmatched. And I think, like, I do the same exact thing, but when, for our viewers and our listeners, why do you want what you want? A lot of people don't always think about exactly what they want. They think about what other people want or what they should be doing. That's why I said to you, Steve, why do you think you need this? Because a lot of people, in their minds, even myself, they get into a mindset where, I've dove down so deep and gotten so passionate about something where I've conflicted myself and actually shown myself that this is what I need, but it's actually a want. I don't need this. It's something that I want. I don't need this vest. I don't need this hat, but it's something that I was able to pay for as either a gift or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's something that I want, and I don't want to. I'm using my hat and the way I dress as a metaphor. It can be served as people wanting to have a family one day, or wanting to have a house one day, or wanting to have this job, this dream job. And the dream job isn't necessarily about the money, it's just about the job that they want to spend the most time doing throughout the day. And when people get conflicted like that, that's why sometimes I get burnout where, when Steve and I start talking, to be completely honest, when Steve and I start talking about logistics and realities and stuff like that, that's where I get burnt out, because I'm like, again, I don't have a wife that is dependent on, I don't have a family that's dependent on me. That's different. But if you do, I can't say anything on that, but for my instance, if there's something there that I want, I'm going to shoot for the stars no matter the sacrifices. And I think when people, because I was there 6 months ago, when you dig down and you pummel yourself into the ground and you keep thinking negative, you keep trying to bully the situation, right? And you keep trying to control stuff that you can't control. You lose sight of the actual dream of what you're trying to achieve. And when you do that, I think people lose a part of themselves. I know I lost a part of myself when I did that. But it didn't come back until I took the steps to say, put your foot down. It doesn't matter what people think. It doesn't matter about the realities per se, right? Because if I put a wall up and I can't smash through it, then the whole plan is ruined.
I love that you actually alluded back to like previous podcasts when that's your mentality.
Yeah.
There's a difference between doing what you need to do and doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what Jake's touching at a little bit.
But you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Like, because when people want what they want, it can take you to an astronomical level that you once saw as an unseen venture, that you thought that you couldn't get there. And that's why I don't mean to get upset, because I know that there's realities out there. I know that people have families that they need to support, and that they can't just quit their job and just go the next day and try to find what they really, really want to do and take a 50% cut in their wages for a year just to get where they want to be.
That's tough to do.
It's very tough to do and hardly is ever done. All I'm saying is that if you lose the mindset and get complacent with your lifestyle and you're not happy with what you're doing, then what did you gain?
See, I've kind of gone through both. I was at a position where I was doing what I needed to do to provide and to take care of myself, and then I got the opportunity to do what I wanted to do. But unlike what you said, I didn't take a pay cut. It doubled my pay, which is nice. It's nice when you can do what you want to do and make more money than doing what you needed to do. But unfortunately, that didn't last all that long.
Yeah.
So then I went back to, oh shit, now I need to go back and do what I need to do to provide.
Yeah.
To take care of me, to take care of my family. So I went, here, what I need to do, doing what I want to do, loving it, provide for my family like never before, and then back down to, oh shit, now I need to, again,
do what you need to do.
Bust my ass, do what I need to do.
So I think that's a great humbling experience that I don't wish it upon anyone, but I think it's actually something that all three of us around this table
have gone through.
Yeah. Right? So
absolutely.
It's something that where, you actually get comfortable, you're on a path, and as far as income levels. So I'll say this, as far as, why do you want what you want? I'll go back to that whole sociology thing. It's because this is, in my opinion, I'm of the opinion that you want what you want because of the surroundings you have. Now, that's not saying that you always want to have what you were raised with. If you have a good example of it, in a sense of, in your mind and social standards, that it's a good example, right? So you have, kids, good family life, good home, it's safe, good schooling, it's setting you up for your future. I do think that there are also the flip side situations where you want otherwise based on how you were raised. And I'm not saying just bad situations, but it's that rebellious side, it's whatever else is going on in that family unit, that as you are forming yourself as a human being, and you get into that adult life, that sometimes you will want to have the opposite or build off of what it is. The obvious easy pickings is, you had a bad upbringing, you want anything other than that. You know what I mean? Like my parents struggled, they fought all the time, it was always about money, it was always about like where they lived, it was always about not just material possessions, it was always about like going to church, it was always about the kids, it was always about the family, like extended family. There's always something going, I don't want that, this is what shapes me as a person, and this is why I want what I want. And I think that's something that's where I go back to what I said initially, was that you want to actually realize and try to self-diagnose why you want what you want. So if you have that path and you're an adult, right? And you have what I led this conversation into in this part of the topic, is that you get fired, right? You get let go. Your company downsizes. Now it turns into, why do you want what you want? That doesn't have to change. You can always still want those things, but now that's where, like Jake asked me initially about the house thing. I don't need a house. I don't need that. If I really needed a place to live, I can, if I, bottom of the barrel, I can be that person that relies on other people, or I can live in a smaller apartment. I can live in a part of town I don't want to live in, but where I'm at now is like, why I want what I want now is that. But what I had was that. I had a house, I had a wife, I had this whole thing. Shit changed in my life, a lot of factors, and then at 30 years old, I had a reset button. Mm-hmm. And so I'm looking at places. I had a good job, I had the income. It's like, I don't want to go from a house to an apartment that I'm paying almost like what I could find a house for and rent it. I don't want to share walls at 30 years old. I don't want to start my life over at this. So now I'm going to look for this. But now it's taken, and people talk about when you go through a divorce, it takes about 5 years, give or take, to really, really recover from that. Doesn't matter if you've been married for a year or 20 years, whatever. But whoever you think you are at that moment is not going to be the person you are in 5 years. So really you have to really go back to, what do I need, what do I want? And then again, going back to the topic tonight, why do you want that? Why do you need that? The need is survival. Is absolutely survival. But when you go strictly survival, it's not the American way. It's not the capitalistic, as far as the American dream. It's not that mentality where it's like, I want these things because, the marketing, the advertising, the social media these days. But at the same time, there's some value to that. If you can work with the system that's around you, that's what you want to do. You don't have to drive the nicest car. You don't have to have the nicest clothes. You don't have to, you keep going back to the way you dress. You don't necessarily, whether you dress like that or whether you dress in t-shirt and jeans, there are people that they dress in t-shirt and jeans, but the t-shirt is like $100 t-shirt. You know what I mean? Like it's all about image to some people. But again, why do you want that? Is it because you want to keep up with the Joneses? Is that because you feel better about yourself? But so I'm at the point now where with the house, like doing this whole move in, and initially it was I have this amount of money to deal with like the big issues, but none of those big issues were as pressing. So now it's like, all right, so I have this money and like I want to make it happy in the long term because I'm buying a house now. I want to move out. I don't have a year lease,
right?
So I don't expect it to be done. So now it's like all that money is basically out the window in a sense because it's like I have gone to that point. But then there's, what about this? What about this? What about this? Now I'm getting stressed because I'm looking at my realtor who's helping me out with all her contacts, my family who's trying to support it, my girlfriend who's trying to support it, and I'm looking at it as like, I'm getting stressed. I'm not trying to snap at anyone. I'm like, no, like, that's it. Like, that's all I got. Like, I don't want to, like, I do want that. That sounds amazing. I can't afford it. Mm-hmm. I have thousands and thousands of dollars on my credit limit, and I have an 800 plus score, so I can have that within the next 12 months. I can do it right now, tomorrow, and then I have to deal with that. Do I want that, or do I want to not get in that situation again? And that's where it's like, I think I can take this topic to the next level or the next step is, why do you want what you want? It's what do you want? Do you want those things that's going to put you in a tough spot, so now all of a sudden you get all those things that make you happy today, but you know what's coming, and then all of a sudden it's stress, it's misery, it's financial struggle, it's all these things that goes back to the financial side, and it goes back to the surface level, or the social media level, or the social standards. It's like, I want all these things, absolutely, but I cannot afford it. Personally, financially, relationship wise, I cannot afford to do all these things because that now all of a sudden sacrifices my well-being because I can see where this leads.
Yeah. And it's a lot of times where we talk about the balance of the thing, where if people dive down a hole of where they just look at realities and they look at plus and minuses and numbers and shit like that, which are things that are important, but I think that at least when I do it, I notice a part of myself that I lose a part of myself, because I lose a part of the kid, dreaming big, right? And I think that's, as humans, keeps us alive. But on the other hand, you can always look at your dream and spend, and think you need to be in this, luxurious lifestyle and post pictures and stuff like that just to show face, right? I think that's also the wrong way, because you're living in a false reality. So it's kind of trying to balance and weave through between those two arenas. And most of you, our listeners and viewers, I know you've been through that, but I can't stand it, and I've said this before, I can't stand it when I see, especially, elderly people. They live in a world where they're just bogged down by their pasts, and they've created a reality for themselves that they're talking about debt and wrong decisions and stuff like that. And when you do that, I believe that you've already dug your grave, and you're not living the life that you could be living if maybe you fix those problems right away. It may take time, but I'm a firm believer that you can do what you want and you can make a change. It doesn't have to, and we talked about this on the New Year's episode. It doesn't have to be a date unless that helps you. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be a date that is set in the holiday calendar where you say, okay, I'm going to do this. But if you do that, prepare for it. But if you want to do it tomorrow, what's stopping you is my question. And again, this is all about encompassing the idea of why you do, what you want, or why do you want what you want, and I truly believe that it's a balance between the reality and in your dreams. As you know, you hear older people always talk about like how they envy kids and having an imagination, all these things. Well, the people I think in today's world that are like really, really successful, air quotes, like have a lot of money, have a lot of riches because they never gave up that dream. You know?
I think sometimes, not always or most of the time, I think sometimes if you only set your goals to what you need to do, you're going to sell yourself short.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely.
Because you're only going to look at, okay,
the bare minimum.
Exactly. I only need to do this in order to get by and get through life and, be okay, get to that end and, be all right. But you don't want to be that person that, 70 years old and you're in a house either by yourself or with your spouse and, you sit back and go, gosh, I wish I would have done blank.
Yeah.
Well,
and you're still not out of time, but it's diminished.
You have a much shorter window. I mean, there are tons of success stories of people that waited, or not waited, but didn't hit success until after they were 60 or 70 years old.
Yeah.
There's tons of those stories, but they don't happen very often.
Well, look at sorry.
All right, go ahead.
Look at Barstool Sports. Like, if people don't know what Barstool Sports is it's literally just they've come to be like a marketing agency, kind of.
Yeah, no, social media giant.
They literally have just created a social media, triumph with reposting funny videos and creating a following. But they've done that, and they've been doing that for 15 years. Dave Portnoy, the president of Barstool, he's been doing that kind of stuff for 15 years, and just in the last 2 or 3, it's popped off, and they're taking over the world, really. When it comes to
Chive's another one, like
no, absolutely,
yeah, or
like
Fuck Jerry.
Yeah,
Fuck Jerry's the same thing, and
I know the Chive, and I know Barstool.
Yeah, and it's the same thing where it's like, I was kind of talking about that last week with the podcast where, it's our first year, and Bobby Crow has been a guest on this podcast. He just said it on our Facebook Live where, it's a bit of patience that comes with it. As long as we, try to push the envelope, but don't beat ourselves up when it's 2,000 views instead of the 4,000 that we had like one big week. It's not on the topic. It's not on the guest. It's just it's the way it goes. And
well, it's doing what we want. I mean, like right now, I look at the viewership, and I'm gonna be transparent. So Nate's got his phone up. I've got my iPad. Dustin, do you have yours going? Mm-hmm. So the representation on the live viewers, like it's going down to 2, and I know there's 3 in the garage. So it's like you could easily just, what we want on this podcast, what we want to do with this current action is to reach out to people. We're not just talking into a microphone. We're not talking into Facebook Live. Just for that, I mean, we have that goal in mind that you keep going, you keep doing it. If it goes down to 2 viewers, and Bobby Crow that you just mentioned, he's on there. So again, it's not always like that. But if I see going down to 2 views, and I see Nate's phone on my iPad, be like, all right, Jake, we gotta call this. Like, fuck, there's no one watching. But that's not what we're trying to do.
And you shouldn't.
And it's not always about what the other people are thinking.
Because you'll be selling yourself short.
You're selling yourself short.
And the simple fact that the audio comes out after the fact, and it's much like when we do the whole intro, and like I try to do the intro twice with the live and the audio. The reason why I do that is because when you tune into the live, when you're not exactly on time at 7, and people tune in like Thursday for the live or Friday in the past, that way they're not looking at a fucking screen for 2 minutes saying, what are these guys doing? And then they tune off.
Yeah, well, and also it's a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
After 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So not everyone can do that. Not everyone can tune in right now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've had times, especially the last couple of weeks, where Wednesday nights I had to work at the shop, so I couldn't watch. I couldn't, be live and participating in all that stuff. But then Thursday or Friday, when I'm at work, got my headphones on, I got it on my computer while I'm doing my work. So I still listen to it then.
Right.
I mean, so that's why you keep going. Because your impact is not just these 2 to 3 hours on Wednesday nights.
No.
Right.
Your impact goes beyond that.
Well, so I'll chime in on that one. As far as I'm trying to bring in some of the stuff that we talked about, and my personal thing. Not trying to pump myself up, but it's one of those things that Jake had talked about earlier. It's the fitness posts and things like that. We talked about on the podcast before, and that's something that I do have a very small, at least when you look at analytics, small grasp or viewership when I post when I'm at the gym. Now, I get Facebook memories from 5-6 years ago when I do the focus posts. And over those years, I've had people that don't comment, nothing, but when I see them, after I haven't seen them in months or whatever, they're like, God damn, man, I see you, posting it, whatever time, whether it's in the morning or if it's at the evening or whatever time it is, you're posting this, and it's like, look at that, I'm fucking eating a cheeseburger. Alan Gold in the industry, he's, doing Cigar Lotus, and he's one that, even from a professional standpoint, he comes in the shop, and maybe he's trying to be the salesman or whatever, but he always will comment, because we're Facebook friends. He sends me Cubs stuff too, because he's from Chicago, but he'll come in and like, man, I see you check in at 8:25, 8:40, whatever. You've already been working out for a while, and you're doing this, and man, I'm driving through a McDonald's drive-through, and I just am like, I don't need 2 subs. I'm going to get 1, and then I got to find a way. It's like you don't know who you're impacting. To your point, Nate, is that no matter if you're doing this podcast, if you're doing something on social media, or if someone just sees you after they haven't seen you in a while, you might have an impact on those people because you are striving for what you want by doing your day-to-day, and that's really what I want to enter into this conversation. Is that when you want something, when you figure out why, it's not only analyzing the fact that why you want that self-realization, but it's that smart thing. I go back to we've had it on talked about it on the podcast, some of the podcasts that we listen to. I know AJ and I both listen to Andy Frisella. And he talks about, the fact that he posts a lot of stuff on there, fancy cars, big warehouses. But he's the first to tell you also is I did have that poster on my wall when I was younger. I did struggle and sleep in my own fucking vitamin store at whatever age when I was still in the industry. Yeah. And to your point, Jake, 10 years later, I was starting to make it.
Right.
Now fast forward another 5 to 10 years later. I drive Lamborghinis. I do this. I employ several people, or hundreds of people. I have 2-3 warehouses. We are nationwide. We're international. All this stuff that I didn't even see coming, but I looked at what do I want, and that's to our point. Why do you want what you want? As long as you have validation to yourself, why you want what you want, and you actually can balance it with your upbringing. Good or bad, like we talked about when I think you walked away. Good or bad, it's something as you grow up and you learn from it. But it doesn't matter if it happens if you're 20 years old, if you're 30, 40, 50, 60. I know you were talking about that. Some people succeed after they're 60. It takes people different times and also different life events. And then, Bobby Crow asked if, do you believe in luck?
I was going to say
it's not necessarily luck. It's just that things line up with your progress in your life.
I think Bobby was going to have an aneurysm if we didn't.
Well, no, I mean the surroundings around you, though. The things that you learn 5 minutes ago, 5 years ago, 5 decades ago, whatever it might be, the things that you learn when the opportunity arises and you can actually capitalize on that because you do want what you want. As long as I don't agree with wanting things because it's selfish to you that you can necessarily drive those, and that's what I love about that Andy Frisella is that he drives those cars because he didn't just go into major debt to be who he isn't at that moment. but he did the work so that when he finally got to that point, and he's the one looking at his bank account, he's talking to his financial advisor, and they're like, yeah, if you want a Lamborghini, like fucking go buy it cash. You can do that. You know what I mean? Or you can do it this way through business. You can do it this way through that way, all that stuff. But it's like 25 years old, I want a Lamborghini. It's like, cool, man. Like, how much money do you have? Well, I live paycheck to paycheck, and I make $15 an hour. It's like, you're not getting a Lamborghini.
Yeah, but to bring in Bobby's point, like the luck thing, where you have a lot of people and a lot of kids on YouTube that are my age, you're 22, 23 years old, that took a loan out just to buy a Hellcat, and then they made a YouTube channel on their Hellcat, and now they have, and for those that don't know, Hellcat Charger, a channel or whatever, and now they get hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views on their YouTube channel, and they get paid for it. So it's like the luck can happen, but based on what Bobby said about, do you believe in luck? I do believe in luck and unluckiness, but I think that I'm a true believer in things that when something happens to me or something happens to a loved one, I try to believe, no matter how hard it is to believe, I try to believe that happened for a reason. And if it did happen and I was lucky, that if we were lucky and this podcast blew up and we had all these sponsors, well, is it our time right now for that to happen? Well, no, I believe no, because we wouldn't be able to handle it. And you can say all these things about your own life and say that, well, I want this and I wish this would happen and stuff like that. And there's something about free will, but there's also staying on the luck aspect of why do you want what you want. It's because you're not ready in your life yet.
Yeah, that's absolutely a factor, but I will take it a step back. It's not always the long-term goal, which I was just referring to. So in the easy example, right? Jake, like when we got, what do you want out of this podcast? We talk about, like, we want a lot of viewers, we want a lot of listeners. We want to enjoy the community that we've been privy to, first of all, in the cigar shop community, the bourbon community, right? So we want that, and we want to be able to be those people that bring that to new people and bring people that are currently enjoying that together. So yes, if the byproduct, obviously the ultimate want is that we can do this, first and foremost, no money out of pocket. Wednesday nights we sit down, Jake and I, for the next 20, 30 years. He moves away, I move away, we're still doing this, right? Podcasts are still a thing, YouTube's still a thing, outside threats, they may not be a thing in 20, 30 years, right? So this is not a good business model long-term based on the fact that in the last 5 to 10 years, all this shit has come up, right? So something else will happen. So you have to continually adapt to that. But the initial want is, are you, and this is me, are you happy today, tomorrow, the next week, and everything else? And you can still want what you want, but first and foremost, and I know it sounds preachy, it sounds like idealistic, but right now it's like the fact that Jake, you and I can get together and we do have more views. We do have more listeners. I shared with him we just started a YouTube channel that I upload this video. We haven't edited it, it's raw, it's everything else, it's what you see on Facebook, which we have a lot of views because of the social sharing side of it, But when it gets to the YouTube channel, like first full month that we've done that, first 2 months that we've done that, we had like another 135. So it's modest, right? But another 100 plus people that have viewed it, this many likes, this many shares, it's like, those are the things that like bring you joy. So yeah, tomorrow you want to wake up and win the lottery and all of a sudden it's like Jake and I are getting phone calls or messages on any of the social media or Gmail, email, all that stuff. And it's like, hey, I want to give you that. I want to give you $1 million because you guys have fucking 10K or 1 million followers. And it's like, cool. We're not there yet. We still get the joy out of where we're at right now. And I think that frames it day to day on what you want. That's where that will always tweak. And we haven't really talked about that either, is that every day, every month, every year that goes by, what you want changes.
Nate mentioned that earlier.
I might have been pissing.
No, you were here.
I wasn't listening.
So I think to get to
where are we?
I think to get to what Bobby was asking you, do you believe in luck, or he even followed up with karma? Do fortunate things happen to people unexpectedly? Yes, they do.
Sure.
However, I think a lot of times people mistake putting in the man hours for luck.
Yeah.
So someone may sit there and say, "Oh my gosh, this person, when they were 50 years old, they started a business and became multimillionaires." Was that luck, or did they put in the groundwork and legwork to get there? Some people look at it as luck because they don't want to put in the work.
Sure.
But some people sit there and go, "No, this is, I want to do this." They may not think it's going to blow up and be huge. They may just think, "Hey, this is what I want to do because it makes me happy." And then people buy into it, it becomes bigger than they ever expected. That's not luck. That's not karma either. That's you doing what you want to do and putting in the effort and the work.
And if you grow too fast, sometimes that'll actually fail.
Yes, it can.
Yeah.
Steve, 6 years ago, you didn't wake up and look like you do right now.
No.
You had to put in a lot of work and a lot of effort to get to where you are.
I was thinking a timeline, I think 6 years ago, I think I was leaner, but
I'd
go back 8 years.
Okay, I couldn't think of the timeline.
I was laughing because it was just like
the picture in the shop or the picture that you showed me.
Absolutely, I know.
Yeah.
I'm fucking with you. Yeah.
You didn't just wake up and by luck or by karma, by being a good person, all of a sudden you have the physique that you do now. You put in a lot of fucking time
and I
work
still
and
want
effort.
more.
Yeah.
But I also,
You're
what do I
putting in the
want?
work.
I also want a day to day. I want to be able to do this. I want to not sleep as much as I probably should because I want to do all those, burn the candle at both ends.
And I mean, sometimes we sit there and we look at someone else's success and we're like, "Oh man, that person got lucky." Well, did they get lucky or are we jealous?
Both, maybe both.
You don't know. If you don't know the story, you can't say.
They could have been lucky.
Dude, I wish
But
I would have been born with and with the work ethic and also the natural talent and welcome our neighbor dog out the window. But if I could have had the height of Michael Jordan and LeBron James, you deal with the cards you're dealt. So I mean, there's a little bit of luck. When I think of luck, it's not necessarily just circumstances. It's literally the facts on the table, the cards you're dealt. That's what's luck. You don't choose. Like any of us, and this is going back to my sociology side of it. No, listen.
I'm listening.
I had a sociology professor that I had for 4 semesters, and I did not like I actually borderline hated him the first semester I had him. This was after I actually met with him to switch to sociology, which I had still not taken an intro to social class. So I had 4 sociology courses my junior year. But what I will say is that he made a comment one time where he looked around. We're at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, and he looks around the room and he said, "You know what? You guys made a good choice." Because he was a shock value guy, right? You guys made a good choice. And we're all sitting there like, what do you mean? He's like, most of you, if not all of you, chose to be born in the United States and with middle to upper class parents. So I really want to congratulate you guys for making a smart decision from birth that you were born in a good situation. And I think that's where that luck really does come into play. When you look at why do you want what you want? Sometimes there are people he actually followed it up with is if you guys would have chosen at birth to be born in a third world country and starving at the age of 6 months, that would have been the worst mistake. So kudos to you guys to choose to be born in, most of you guys from the Midwest, to be born in the U.S. in the Midwest and middle to upper class parents.
Which is funny because it's not something that we get to choose.
That's the irony. Yeah, that's the irony. That's the sarcasm. That's one of those things that you're just that's what the cards that you're dealt. I mean, there are a lot of people in the world that that may or may not be listening to the podcast, but it's you aren't dealt the cards that make sense.
Well, you brought up Michael Jordan, LeBron James.
Sure.
If you'd been born with their height, okay, Muggsy Bogues.
Absolutely.
5'8", 5'9", was not born with the gift of being
But
tall.
I'd argue that he is more athletic than I am based on some sort of genetics, but also I also refuse to believe that it's just that. There's a lot of hard work there.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like there's dedication, there's hard work. And even if you're born like Michael Jordan, I mean that's a great story,
right? He could have decided to work an office, to grow up, work an office job and be fat.
The story is
He
Michael
could be
Jordan
fat
got
as a
cut.
kid and live that life the rest of his career. But
Michael Jordan got cut from his JV
high school.
team. Yeah,
he got cut from the high school basketball team.
Yeah. So I mean, like, there is a lot of dedication, but those factors actually play into each other.
Yeah.
If he didn't get cut from his JV team, the freshman sophomore, would he have been what he was because of the hardships?
Sometimes you learn from those hardships.
And that goes back to the why do you want what you want? You figured you want that. Do you change what you want because you had a hardship, or do you actually say I want it more? And keep doing that. There's plenty of people that I know that are of more accelerated ages, so they're further down the life and they're still trying to fight for what they want.
Yeah.
And you're just like, dude, let the dream go. But I don't want to be that guy because like maybe to your point, Nate, that 60, 70 years old, you actually hit it. You know what I mean? You stuck with it and
why would you say that to someone?
Because you look at the struggles they're having, like I can think of someone that you're like, dude, like just give up the dream. Like you're struggling and you're in your 40s or 50s and you don't have anyone around you anymore and you're still like holding on to a pipe dream.
But
like
you don't know. But you don't know what's going to happen.
I agree. That's why I'm saying I'm not saying that. But at some point, if you're struggling, you're living paycheck to paycheck or less, and you are of an age where it's like, dude, you're not like so football. Like we always go back to that with you, Jake. Like you say you want to be an NFL person, or like right now there's a pitcher that's actually a prospect again in his late 30s.
Yeah, I saw
90
that.
some miles an hour.
I saw that.
How many times do you think he's been told not to, just give it up? He probably did give it up. He's probably been working steadily, but also working on the side, throwing the baseball. But at the same time, it's like when you get to a certain age, it's like 50 years old, man, like, dude, you're not going to pitch for a living. You're not going to throw a baseball for a living. Like, you physically can't do it. Figure something else out.
Do you remember the movie The Rookie with Randy Quaid?
And that was based on a true
story.
And this is something that's happening in our lifetime.
Yeah.
Did I talk last week about me and AJ's conversation over Instagram? So, and this is, bear with me, folks, but I think it's a really, really good point with our subject is that, so AJ that we had on just 2 weeks ago, with James Java Coffee, he had a post that said, why is being rich or wanting to be rich, right,
I saw that,
a taboo?
Sure.
And it was one of those things, and I talked about it last week on my riff on closing remarks, about having one of those moments in your life where you've had this question for the last year of your own, and you literally just answered it, just letting it rock, like just letting it go, not having a care in the world. And that's exactly what I did anyways with AJ. And what I answered back was, I don't think wanting to be rich, air quotes, is the taboo here, rather than the topic of discussion that scares the people who love and care for you. Why, you ask? Because your loved ones don't want you to be let down, and sometimes when their lives have been hard, they think they know from experience that being let down sucks, and they don't want to see you go through the same struggle. Here's the irony. In doing that, the loved ones actually hinder the person because that person needs to fail. Learn from the mistakes, go to the bottom so he or she can bring themselves back up and grow. Wanting to be rich, air quotes, isn't a taboo. The elegance, the confidence, and the control of your own life is the appeal, not the fucking money.
Yeah.
And so bringing it back to our topic, what I'm trying to say in that is that, Bobby was talking about you need to fail to, grow, and you need to make mistakes to grow. You need to go to the bottom so you can get to the top. because that's what I've been struggling with lately, and I've said that, where I want this and I want this big dream. I have my dream of doing my own things, and everyone does, but because I'm not able to make my own mistakes and fail, at least I've felt I haven't been able to. I have since I've graduated, because on my own accord.
Yeah.
But once I do that, I can build myself back up in what this is really going towards, is being able to get what I want. This is the deeper meaning. It's below the surface of what we're really talking about. And it's just like,
I think it's the core of it.
Like wanting to be rich and wanting the money to do what you want to do. It's not the money, it's wanting the confidence in yourself, in the control in your own life, because people don't have that. I know that's the way I feel, and I think a lot of people feel that way. But they think that the only way that they can get to that point is the money.
Well, so what I will say is that there's nothing wrong I'm of the opinion there's nothing wrong with wanting to be rich and being successful in that regard, because there are plenty of times in my life now that, doing what I'm doing, I love what I'm doing, from an occupational standpoint. And there are actually several people that make more money than me, make less money than me, that would love for their day-to-day to be my day-to-day.
Right.
I get that. However, there's a point now with the house. I wish I could be able to do that a little easier. Now, also, what I will say is that, and maybe this, for you and me, Jake, because we are much the same person, we are different, but we're much the same person at different stages, or different ages of life, not stages, but I will say this, is that you have to, again, assess what your priorities are and what you're willing to sacrifice. Because one of the things that I will say is that there are times where when things are going well and things are going well financially and you're doing that, what are the sacrifices and what are your goals? There are a lot of people, in my opinion, that it's not ill will. It's not like, fuck the people around me, fuck my family, fuck my wife, my kid. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing because I am successful and they should appreciate that about me.
Yeah.
But then you sacrifice your well-being, your happiness, unless your happiness is literally that day. And I will say this, is that I was in a situation where I was making more money. I was not rich, but I was more comfortable than I am now financially. And I was also going through my mid to late 20s. So I went through that next checklist thing, right? But when it all came down to it, I lost myself in it. Not in an arrogant way, but I didn't stay true to what was my, what made me. And that's with this subject, why do you want what you want? It's like, that's where it's like, when I said that earlier, it's that day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year, why do you want what you want will change. Yeah. And be open to that, because, you may lose someone that's important to you. You may lose time with someone that's important to you. You might also hurt people that you care about, because you just cannot lose the fixation of what you want. It's not material possessions, it's not anything else, but it's like where I want to be when I'm 30, where do I want to be when I'm 40, where do I want to be when I'm 50, and there is no red pen for that. There's no delete button, there's no edit to that. It's like, fuck that, I'm 20 years old, I'm going to be that when I'm 50, and then you look at the people that you actually look up to and you actually look into it, you look into their lives. Well, I don't want that, or that, but I want that. I want the end game. And you're like, don't forget about A, B, C. Because A, B, and C actually is a part of that.
Yeah. They want Z without going through the rest
Fuck
of the
yeah. So it's like, figure that shit out.
Well, it takes me back to my own personal story that I've talked about many episodes ago. My dad got married at a very young age, had his first kid at a very young age. My dad always did what he needed to do.
Saving for the live folks.
My dad always did what he needed to do to support his family.
Right.
I had the opportunity several years ago. I was doing what I needed to do. I had the opportunity to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I took a chance. And as I'm driving to the interview for the job that I wanted.
What was that?
I was a cigar rep.
Okay.
Maybe not the company, the ideal company, but that's the job.
Gold job.
That was
right
the,
at the
that was
moment,
the
yeah.
job I wanted. On the way to that interview, my dad calls me. He's like, "Hey, where are you?" "Oh, I'm driving up 65 in Indiana." "Oh, what for?" "I got that job interview I told you about." My dad goes, "I hope it goes well, but not too well." My dad didn't want me to get that job.
Really?
And me wanting that job had nothing to do with the money. Yes, it was double what I was making at the time. I wasn't doing it because of the money. I was doing it because that's what I wanted to do. Now,
You're already married?
yes,
You are?
and my wife was my biggest supporter in that.
Sure.
Now, did that pan out? No, it didn't.
Long term, no, but
Long
you
term,
did
no.
get hired.
I did get the job.
Yeah.
I was able to do what I wanted to. I mean, how many people never get the chance to do what they wanted to do?
Too many.
Too many. I got the
Fair answer right there.
I got the chance at 30 years old to do what I wanted to do.
Let me ask you this. Why do you think your dad didn't want you to have that job?
I think my dad, because of always having a job that provided enough for his family, my dad was never wealthy. My dad's still not wealthy, but my dad was always able to provide. He always had a house, he always had a truck. He was always able to do the things he wanted to do. Or not necessarily wanted to do in game, but he always he was able to do the things.
Felt like he satisfied what he wanted to do that.
He was able to have the truck that he wanted. He was able to have a bass boat. He was able to go fishing and do all that stuff. But he was never able to do anything more than that. And I think he just thought it was too much of a risk. I was taking too big of a risk and not playing it safe in his mind. But I was like, no, this is what I want to do right now.
Right.
And I have the opportunity. I'm going to take it, and I did. Now, it didn't work out, but I don't regret taking that risk.
No.
Now, I will say, because of the experience that I had, because of what eventually happened, and how things turned out, it's put me in position. I had to go, I got knocked down a peg. I had to go back to doing what I need to do.
You gotta let go.
I got let go.
Yeah.
At the smoking tenement. But after the smoking tenement.
Do not bring smoking. We got enough bad juju right now in the smoking tenement. Come on, man. Why don't you email the lieutenant that I'm dealing with right now? Yeah, no, nothing good happens out of that. You should not do that.
No,
damn it,
but
Nate.
I got the.
How was your sixth and final time on the podcast?
Wow. I still like you, Nate. That's Steve saying.
He's going. Go ahead. I'm fucking with you. Come on.
I know. No, I mean, yes, I took a chance. I took a risk. I got to do what I wanted. I enjoyed it while I had that opportunity. Got knocked down a peg. Now I'm back to doing what I need to do. But that doesn't mean does what I want to do different than what it was 5 years ago? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because of those experiences, it's actually made me more reserved about taking that opportunity or taking other opportunities again, because I don't ever want to put my family in that position.
That's right. Yeah.
But you have more obligations now than you did.
Well, no, I was still married.
Okay.
I was married then. I'm married now. Don't have kids. Didn't have kids then. Don't have kids now.
Same wife.
Same wife. Yes.
For those of you that are following along.
Same wife.
You laugh at that,
but I mean, my priorities are still the same. But that it kind of put me back a little bit, because now I'm more reserved about taking a chance. and we've talked about that before on one of the previous podcasts that I was on.
I've gotten amped up about that quite a few times.
Having that opportunity taken away from you, sometimes you're like, okay, I did that. What happened afterwards?
This is exactly what I was talking about with AJ.
It put my family in a really bad position. I don't ever want to put my family in a bad position again.
Exactly.
So if an opportunity came up, not necessarily in that same industry, but if an opportunity came up to do something that I wanted to do, would I take it? I'm a little bit more reserved about whether or not I would.
Yeah.
Because of past experiences.
But is that good? So I've been
get at it.
Drumbling at, I don't know if that's a word, but drumbling at this,
it's not, I don't think
that same kind of, I call it a vortex really, where it's like people.
That's a word.
Vortex is a word, it's intense.
Where.
You're dialed in right now.
Yeah, I'm.
Get in.
I love it because, and again, it's different seeing it from my perspective, being 23 and seeing older, generations. Anyone older than I am. Do the same exact thing where they're reserved about past situations, and this is what I was talking about with AJ when we had AJ on here.
Yeah.
Was. It pains me. It pains me when there's an opportunity there that you're reserved about, and you just there's too many people that I know that are older in older than me, and there's not much there to be older than me, right? But if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, it doesn't matter. Late 20s. There's too many people from past experiences, they reserve themselves from taking a leap in something that they know that they want to do because of a past experience that ended badly. And it just pains me to see that. And that's, I think, when you lose that dream, and that's where you lose in life, because you're losing a part of yourself.
You're right.
You're not doing, and I'm not talking about being selfish. I'm not saying what Steve said. It's not screw my family, screw my children, screw this and screw that. It's just taking a second and not reserving yourself, but making an educated guess and saying, is this something that I really want to do? It's just like Alicia this past week with accepting a job to her new job. Mm-hmm. She wants to do something in marketing, and it's $10,000 more a year, but the vacation time was less. But she knows that, and the benefits aren't as good. And you know that, I know that the older generation says, well, as long as the benefits are great, well, you're good then. Well, how does that matter if you can't even pay your fucking bills in the process, but you have all this money when you get out of it, but you can't thrive throughout your main life?
See, that was another reason why my dad didn't want me to take that job.
Because the benefits
Because I was working at what he thought was one of those companies you just don't leave.
Exactly.
But yet, 3 years before that, my wife was at the exact same job with the exact same company and got laid off.
Right, and you don't know. And what I'm saying is you don't sacrifice something that could be great because of something that you're content with already. If you think that you're going to grow by moving forward, if you think. And again, this is about prioritizing and making an educated guess and saying, and it is, I hate to admit it, but it is at that point a game of pros and cons and plus and minuses.
It always is.
But it's not. But besides that, if you do that in this instance, like what Alicia did, she will grow in her years to come. Mm-hmm. And she won't lose that part of herself that is still keeping track of that dream. Because again, once you lose that and you're content with your life, who are you?
You become that old person sitting there going, oh, I wish I would have done, I regret not doing.
It's haves and have-nots. That's what it becomes.
My wife's in the same position as Alicia. My wife's going after other positions that she wants to do. but that's because she's not content where she is. Yeah, she can keep doing what she's doing now and be able to provide for our household, but she doesn't enjoy what she's doing now. She's content in the job and the pay, but that's not what she wants to do. She wants to do more. Right. So she's going after that. She's taking a chance.
And that means while her job now, she's looking for jobs that could pay better. And if it takes one step off of benefits, but she'd be happier, there is a value. There is a value in peace of mind. That is the monkey wrench that we can throw into the pile on this topic.
Well,
what do you think, Steve?
Well, I mean, you were very, very quick to negate what I said, that it's always going to be pros and cons, because you are talking about your values and what you want, right? So 10 grand in Columbus, Ohio is actually a significant bump. If you take away a week's vacation and you want to actually take a vacation, then you can't get all pissy and moany about the fact you can't take a day off. But a year or two down the road, you're like, hey man, like you say, like, hey, my job, I have 3 weeks vacation. She's like, I only have 1. And I'm like, well, what the fuck? Like, I want to go see this concert. You guys like go to see these concerts. Like, fuck, like, well, just call off. Like, well, I can't call off because if I call off, like, I'm gonna get fired. Like, well, I want to go see the concert. So pros and cons aren't a thing. My ass. Fuck you. They're always a thing. And you will take a step back. I absolutely agree. Sometimes I look at it from my experiences that typically in my previous careers that you would actually have to take a step back and pay for better benefits. And so you would get to the cap of where you're at in that career, and you would you take a step up, but your hourly or your salary,
lower, but
you'd start to have, hey, by the way, the benefits are better. Now 5 years from now, take away this guy, you're still here. You're maxed out. 5 years from now, you're here with better benefits, 401k, all that stuff. Better vacation. What's your priorities? Why do you want what you want? So it's like, it's not always, but I also I'm not trying to disagree just with Jake, but I mean, it's like I'm listening to what's being said, and it's one of those things where I know you and Jess had that thing with your previous employer, right? That you do get burned, and I've been a part of it.
Shut up, Bobby.
I've been a part of that. Hang on. So, I mean, but it's one of those things where it is, why do you want what you want? You know what I mean? 10 grand, what does that get you? A little bit bigger apartment, or does that actually get you ahead in life? You know? Does it get you a little nicer car? $10,000 a year is not that much money when it comes down to a moreапproach of a understanding, I think, to myself and other people, like a monthly type of budget, right? So that's where you have the apartment or the house, you have the car, you have the insurance and all that stuff. So it's like, I know from my experience, and I'll say this, and I know that Alicia and I actually had that conversation, because it was similar. I don't know if it's about this job or something previous, but we had a similar conversation where it's like, yeah, so not only did I, through my job transition, take a pay cut, but at the same time, it's like, years later, I'm paying more for medical insurance. So it's like, all of a sudden, I'm dipping in further into my actual income, right? So then it's, the car that I'm good, and all of a sudden now it's just because that doesn't change, but other factors in the world, in my life, do change. You know, gas prices go up, they go down, they go up, they go down, and all that stuff, you know what I mean? Medical insurance goes up, it goes down, it goes up, you know, whatever.
Very rarely does it go down.
Yeah, it rarely goes down. But I mean, it's like one of those things where it's like, I don't say it's a bad decision, but it's, again, why do you want what you want? You know, it's like, I look at Nate as a guest for this one that I haven't brought up yet. I don't want to expose your lifestyle completely, but I look at it as it is very, especially in the cigar world, I think it's very unorthodox, where you guys have one car.
We drive one car. My wife has a car that's still getting.
See, we have a guest on here that both spouses, both people in the marriage are gainfully employed. Yeah? All right, so everyone's gainfully employed. And you guys work as a team to get to work, get from work, get to your next job, get to home, get to like grocery store. It is absolute teamwork. And one of the things that I love having you on this podcast is that you have done something that in this day and age is extremely rare unless you are struggling to scrape by based on what jobs you have, what education level you have, what upbringing you have. And we have two intelligent college graduates, both.
Yes.
Both college graduates, both gainfully employed, and they're making decisions that I even like look at it and I both envy and also like based on my upbringing and my 38 years, I don't think I could do unless it was that ideal. Like literally my girlfriend works next door to me. So it's like, I can make that work, probably, you know? And I've at this point in my life, luckily for the last, this part of my career, the previous career, I have positioned myself from a living standpoint to be close on a proximity level. You aren't that. You know what I mean? Like you're all over the page. So there's so much that goes into what you want. And I will say that Nate was as we get to the closing, a great guest for this, because through all your ups and downs over the years, Nate, you have made some choices that the majority of the people in Columbus, Ohio, and other parts of the U.S. and other parts of the world would not make those sacrifices. You would be living paycheck to paycheck. You'd be eyeballs deep in credit card debt. And I don't know if you are or not, but based on your life decisions, I don't think that you are. And if you are moving out of that. So,
I could sum our position up in one sentence.
Go ahead.
To quote someone who has an extremely successful life, business, radio, all that stuff. We live like no one else now, so that way later we can live like no one else.
And I'll say
we have no debt at all. Now, some people would sit there and say, "Hey, you guys have no debt. You both make X amount of money. You know, you drive a car that's got 250,000 miles on it. Like, what the fuck are you doing? You know how great it is not driving a car with a car payment? It's fantastic. Or not having a student loan payment.
That was the old American dream. The American dream now is that you could have a $250 car payment a month.
That would still be less than when I bought that $13,000 car for.
There you go. So my point.
No, I get you. I get you.
That's why
I get exactly.
I like this conversation around the table because Jake has such valid points. I really think that when we get into this part of it is that we're all in different positions in life, and when you look at why you want what you want, it will consistently change. And I will give my 2 cents on where I'm at in my life as an example, because I do appreciate where Nate's at, and I appreciate where Jake's at. And for me, because I go back to that topic question that Jake had about the house.
Can I borrow your paper and pen?
It was not that long ago that when I'm going through this, and I would easily whip out a credit card and just be like, all right, so we're gonna go $4,000 over budget. I'll figure it out. You know what I mean? I can't do that anymore. I don't want to do that anymore because I've been burned by that. I've had to take out of retirement before to make up for things that I thought would work out and didn't work out, right? So I'm looking at it now is that I feel like I'm getting to that point where I'm being the actual mix between where Nate's at and where Jake's at, and also where I used to be. So that's where it's like I listen to what Jake's saying is that you lose that dream. I didn't lose that dream, but based on where I'm at in life and the surrounding factors of people around me, my family, my job, and everything else. If I lost my job tomorrow at Tinder Box, I know I would make sacrifices that, I'm not going to go to another cigar shop. I'd reach out to maybe the cigar industry. I'd also look at cubicle jobs. I'd also work with my network and be like, this is where I'm at, and this is what I need to at least make, and this is what I'm hoping to make.
You're not going to rely on luck. You're going to rely on sweat equity.
Sweat equity, and also the fact that my bills are due at the end of the month. right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I hold on to the dream for a little while longer, and then I might take a step back, and I'm not going to make that payment. I gotta sell that car. I gotta sell that house. I gotta do, what I gotta do. I gotta do what I have to do to survive. And that's what you were talking about earlier, Nate. Is that that you had to take that step back. If you get fired, if you lose someone in your life, if you have that setback, it doesn't necessarily change for me. What do I want? A great humbling experience right now is the housing market. And when I'm looking at the house that I just bought and what I have to put into it. In 2004, when my ex and I bought that house, it was move-in ready, and it was less than what this was, because that's what happens with time in the market, right? But we moved in, and none of this stuff was a priority for us when we moved in. This was like a wish list thing. But we literally could sweep up, wipe down a little bit, dust a little bit, but not even that much, put our furniture in there, and go to sleep. Mm-hmm. I could do that over here, but for what that house is, what we paid for it, and what I would even have you guys over there, and you walk through and be like, and I would have been like, well, this is what the market's at. But now I'm able to do what I'm going to do. I'm not trying to press anyone. I'm literally trying to, within my means, keep what I want, and I know why I want that, but also not overextend myself to the point where in 6 months or 12 months that I am struggling to keep up with the Joneses, even though the only Jones is myself.
And that's a very wise, mature thing to say.
Indeed. That's where you get. And there are people at every age that get that point.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jake. You're writing a lot. I thought we were doing closing remarks.
I think we've done 2 rounds of closing remarks, but it's interesting that I've said that word a lot tonight, and I will continue to say it because that's why I love this podcast, is that this is 100% raw, but so LJ and Bobby Crow have been talking it up through our Facebook Live, which is great.
This is his first time listening, he said.
Yeah, and so they've been talking about people don't know how to prioritize. Many do it at all, and others do it incorrectly. They often confuse what they need versus what they want, and those two are not interchangeable.
That need was in quotes.
And I think, what that means is all subjective, what you need and what you want, right? And it's mostly for what you need. And that's what I was alluding to at the very, very beginning of the podcast with my opening statement on a life topic. But I've been writing a lot of stuff down, and if my closing remarks was, and I know, I hope that the fuck you wasn't towards me, but to the people that think that way, which I am one.
Who said that?
Well, when you I got amped, and then you got amped, and we were talking about the pluses and minuses. I think that yes, things are pluses and minuses, and there are pros and cons. But on the other hand, if that's all the way you think, then what? There's nothing there. There's no humility in being a fucking computer, and that's what I sometimes see in people that only think in plus and minuses and pros and cons. And you can argue with prioritizing, and that always changes, and that's what Robert and Bobby Crow and LJ were talking about. How the interesting point is that the priorities change, and what I'm trying to say is that prioritize what matters. What about yourself? Without being completely selfish. It's a question for all of our viewers and listeners. You want to prioritize? Well, the thing that you prioritize this year is going to change till next year. It's going to change next year.
Most likely, yeah.
It's going to change 5 years from now. You don't see
life happens.
Yeah, I don't.
That's what I was saying earlier.
Yeah, there are pluses and minuses, but in a belief system that allows you to, in a belief system that, in my belief system that allows myself to keep thriving and keep pushing, I can't think that way within reason. I can't think the same way that Steve does, and I hope that he doesn't expect me to think that way, where I look at things in plus and minuses. I can prioritize, and I can think of, well, can I deal with this for right now, yes. Can I not? Well, then I don't do it. That's the base level of it. But
if you and Steve always saw eye to eye and agreed on everything, this would be a very boring fucking podcast.
Agreed.
The only energy would come from this chair.
Agreed.
No, but I get what you're saying, but at the same time, we've had this conversation before that if you, and maybe this is a sticking point going forward for right now, and as we begin season 2 of this podcast, is that if you take for granted, not me, because I don't have all the answers. I'm pretty transparent with Jake. Honestly, I am. I've told him a lot more than I've told a lot of people, as far as from my life situations, financial situations, and everything else. If you just negate that and just tune it out from me, from Nate, from Dustin, where he's at, all the guys in the cigar shop, all the parents, and family members that are around you, if you just do that and just blindly just go blunt nose into your life and be like, no one knows me like me, then it's a waste. That's where I'm listening to what you're saying. At least, I'm not saying model your life after that, but at least take it into consideration and put in the fucking data bank that when you get that, you wake up or you face that situation, that you have all this data about the pluses and minuses. That's your words, pluses and minuses, or like this person succeeded, this person didn't. Can I actually see if they did better or worse because of certain situations, or is there something that actually triggered them not to succeed? But if you just listen to people and you no, I'll figure it out for myself, that is a you thing. I did think like that, and I'm gonna figure it out. And then I also had the conversation when I sat down with my dad when I was like, hey, my ex and we're not getting along, and all this stuff, and we're looking at going to marriage counseling and possibly getting a divorce, and all he said was yeah, we tried to figure that out, how it works out. So it's don't always take it on yourself, and I think that's the balance that we always talk about here. I'm not trying to jump on this page of things, but I'm listening to it, and I'm not going to let it go that you and everyone else out there, myself included, I still do it. The guys I look up to, the people I look up to, including my mom, and I look up to the people in the cigar community that I really do look up to, and I look at, like I said, I look up to Nate. I'm not going to do what he does. I'm not going to have one car. I'm not going to have I'm not going to walk to work. I'm not going to do all that stuff. I admire it, and I take that into consideration in certain circumstances that come up in my life.
Yeah, I agree. And on the same point, I admire you, Steve, but I'm not going to look at life as pluses and minuses. Am I going to take in consideration what my parents and what my friends say? Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's my decision.
Absolutely.
So when I make the decision to do this, I expect you to respect it. So that's why, and I refuse to look at life as a digital perspective, because then I lose my creativity. I can't do this podcast. I can't do my job. And I think I look out for the people and the viewers. Steve, I think that our viewpoints allows a wide spectrum for our viewership, and that's in us being passionate about our viewpoints is great. Absolutely. But to add on to what you were saying, Steve, there's so many people, at least in my life, I always hear well, are you, they always ask what you're doing, right? And again, this is the topic of why do you want what you want?
Yeah.
And we're diving deep down in the rabbit hole. It's still on topic, but I hear too many people ask me, well, they ask what I want to do. And then I tell them, and then they say, do you have a plan? And then they want to criticize me because my viewpoint or my plan isn't straight cut and straightforward as they want it to be. Well, what do you want to do?
No, I get
what do you want to do with your life?
And
then hold on, Nate.
No, go ahead.
What do you want to do? What? And then they tell me, well, what's your fucking plan? And they don't have anything. And it's at least I may not have A, B, C, and D, but at least I have A and fucking C done. You know what I mean? And I can fill in the gaps. It's just like with this podcast. We have we come up with the topic and then we fill in the gaps. We may have some off-topic things and conversations within the podcast. Tangents, but that's what makes it great.
Absolutely.
And it's the same exact metaphor in life. And when people, it doesn't bug me more. Nothing bugs me more than people asking me, well, do you have a plan? Well, this is my plan. In that instance, that's where I see red in when they disagree with me, and then I throw it back on them. And I'm not saying people should do this, but I think it's one of those things where it's a point where you can really, really look down into yourself, and see what you're wanting, and you can really look into other people too. And my last thing that I want to say is that I can't see the future, and I want to, but what matters now is how I can achieve and push to that point. And what that means is the same thing as what I just said, where I may not have A, B, C, and D, but I'll have A and C, and it doesn't matter. It's not your say. It's not your say in what A, B, C, and D is, but I'll take into consideration what you say, but you better not expect me to, you better not expect me to put into my plans what you advised, is what I'll say.
All I'm saying is that if there's someone that you want to be able to support a family, right? So I feel like you do. If you want to support a family, if you want to own a house, you want to buy a house, and where we're going, find the facts. Not opinion, but like, this is how I did it. This is what the facts are, like number-wise, and then do what you're saying.
I think,
because that's where it's like, why do you want what you want? And it's like, yeah, I want to be able to vacation. I want to be able to travel. I want to own a nice house that has a great view out the back porch, and have a big deck, and I want to have a fire pit, and I like go to the material possessions. I want to have a nice car. I want to have, like very comfort level and all that stuff. And it's like, cool. Well, that sounds good. Even if you make $100,000 a year, unless you do these things, you're still not going to get that. And that's all I'm saying is that I know what I'm going through right now, again, in this cycle of my life. And if I didn't have the opportunity that I had from my family, I would not be able to do that.
Yeah. But it's just like you and I, Steve.
But it's numbers that would probably stagger a lot of people.
Yeah, but it's just like when we talk about like our money problems. Like I haven't had a paycheck in a month and a half, and it's like, people and we talk about money because I think that most of the time that's what conversations that thrive around the world is about money. And I think that's a big problem for most people because there are credit cards in the world and you can spend what money you don't have. Well, the easiest answer, cut and dry, is say, well, you don't use your credit card and you don't spend the money that you don't have.
Yeah.
But that's not the world we live in. And I love the quote of something someone said where you want more money or you want to save money, where it's you're spending all this money. Well, you either get, most people think, well, you stop spending this amount of money, right?
Yeah.
Well, you can either do that or get a second job.
Can.
If you want more money, get a second job or stop spending less.
As long as you're not upset that you have no free time.
Yeah.
I think part of what you're touching at, Jake, is sometimes if we tell people...
Sorry for getting animated.
No.
It's just good.
No,
I apologize about that. We do have to tie it off here.
I think what happens to some people, and maybe this is what's happened to you, Jake, and this is why you're getting so passionate about it, is you've told people, hey, this is what I want to do, this is what my plan is, and all you hear is so much negativity towards that you're like, well, I'm tired of hearing just negative people, negative comments. No, fuck you, this is what I want to do. Same thing when I went to my job interview. You know, it was gut wrenching. It broke my heart when my dad told me he didn't want me to get that job when it was something I was passionate about. That didn't ruin my relationship with my dad. It doesn't mean I don't take my dad's advice, but in that particular sense, I was like, no, this is what I want. Yeah, I don't have everything figured out because I'm not, you know.
You had A and C laid out.
My dad's 25 years old. My dad's 25 years older than me. Yeah, he's had more experiences. He's gone through more.
All right,
I get that.
I'll chime into that.
There's, you know, part of my closing remarks, and then Steve, you can tie off, I guess.
No,
there's
that specific instance on the flip side that I want to chime into. Yeah.
Say it. Go ahead.
No, there's a time, the first time at 2 Minute Truck that I was hired in, and I got to the point in my career that I was a claims manager, right? And I lost out to the head of operations, to the current claims manager. And I knew, because I knew him very well, that he was not going to do well at that position. Mm-hmm. Just what I knew of him, and I was younger than him and all that stuff, and I knew what his life situation was. And so I moved into his old position, and I transitioned from one database to another database, and I also used his vendors and also added to it. And we had, I don't know the numbers anymore, fuck, this has been a decade or so ago.
Yeah.
But I went from having like 80 open claims to 10 open claims and current open claims in a matter of like 3 months. And then he failed, and then I was thrown back into a previous position, and I was not happy about it. And I still remember it because I was at the Dublin World Gym at the time in the strip mall. I was talking to my dad on the phone, and I was like, dude, this is bullshit because they don't appreciate what I just did. I spent 3 months to totally clean up a position that this person was promoted from, and I didn't get that promotion. And then now he's taking my current position back, and I'm getting kicked out. And he said to me, dad-like, okay, I get it. How are you going to make your car payment in 2 months?
Yep.
You're going to make your rent? How are you going to go to the doctor if you need to go to the doctor? You started throwing out like real life things. Like, it's not even that profound. It's just like, so you're going to quit tomorrow? I support you. What are you going to do for a job? I don't know. I'll figure it out. But that's bullshit. It's all seen right. It's all emotion. I'm just like, no, this is bullshit. They should not treat you that. Yeah, hand in your face versus out there, right? You're right, Nate. But it's like one of those things, and it's like, at the end of the conversation, I'm like, all right, I'll figure it out. I'll do my job. 5 years later, I'm still at the company, and I've been promoted several times. You know what I mean? Like, ended up not being the greatest fit long term, but it's that reality that it's like the A to C thing is great as long as you're willing to make those sacrifices while you figure it out. So why do you want what you want? If you want to get to C, that's fine, but be ready to be fucking taken out of the knees. And if you want to make an emotional decision that you don't want to do that, like I didn't want to do, if my dad didn't talk to me that night, I literally would have been gone in the next day and be like, yeah, that's fine, Paul can come take that position again, but I'm going to get my 2 weeks. And they probably would have been like, well, no, you shouldn't do that. But if I would have fought that and been that person, I would have been out of a job, and I would have like taken more than 2 steps back in my life. And I would have had the harsh reality of what gut reactions are based on what other factors are. So that B step, if you're ready to fucking more or less be homeless or take a huge step back and live with your parents if you have parents, or rely on a girlfriend or rely on a wife, or whatever it is, like I was supporting you, or take a job that you don't want because you have to make those bill payments, that's fine. I agree with that. Like there are times where you have to make a decision, but it's not all fucking hopes and dreams that you're gonna like be like, I'm gonna stand by my principles and I win. There's going to be a time that hopefully you will win, but you have to be prepared for those months or years where you don't win anymore because you made a decision.
That ties into what I was going to say for my closing remarks. There's a difference between what do you want now and what do you want later.
Yeah, that's what you're doing in life.
Yeah, why do I do what I do now? Because I know what I want to get to later. If I just did everything that I want now, I probably won't get to where I want to be later. So I'm sacrificing end game for short game. Or I can sacrifice short game for long game.
Yeah.
You know, and then kind of what we've also alluded to a little bit.
It's because you're a boss, Nate.
Thank you, Bobby. Another part of it, and we've talked about this, is what did I want 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
And what now?
What do I want now?
Yeah.
What do I want later?
Right.
Those all change. Part of it's because of outside influence. Part of it's just because you grow up, have different life experiences. You're like, okay, this is what I used to want. This is what I want now. You're still going down a road. It's just a slightly different road than what you were on before.
And that can get a lot of people jumbled up.
It can, absolutely.
And I'll say this too, there's people that I look up to that I feel like they have things figured out. You know, I'll say this, I'm not going to throw out specifics right now, but I know growing up, you know, going back to socialization, you know, I thought that my parents had things figured out, right? And like the house that we moved here in 1987 was apparently like the smallest house that I lived in. But it was still a nice house. My mom still lives in it. It's if you look around Columbus area, it's a nice area. But compare it to what we were at in my first 7 years of my life, it was not as big or custom, you know, whatever it is, like it's social standards. But then there was also a time in early high school that our house was on the market. And we had to clean up and we had to leave the house and do all that stuff, you know what I mean? It's like first world problems, but it was like a reality check that we never had to do. But it's one of those things that when you're trying to adapt to what you want, and I look at my parents, like that had to be a big humbling experience for my parents. And I'm actually gracious that I have experienced that, because it's absolutely the fact that you're saying there, Nate and Jake, you've alluded to, is that things do evolve and things do change, but I've tried to stay true to it to a point. But what will change and what has changed for me, I'll say this, is that at 38, when I look back at when I bought my first house at 24 and I was, you know, not even engaged yet.
A lifetime
ago, is that at this point in my life, we were probably on our second or third house that we made those steps so that I was moving in these houses that are like $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 house, you know what I mean? Like I was on that path, but I'm grateful that I learned from all those things. So now that when I look at what I want, I'm not getting ahead of myself. It's a self-realization now, today.
Delayed pleasure, but the difference between you and me, Nate, is that I still want to enjoy, and you can look around, you know what I mean? Like you look at the car I drive, you know, even the fact I drive a Cadillac that I pay $400 a month for, I bought an extended service warranty, I drive very little, so I'm hoping that by the time I have that car paid off, I'm $7,000 to $10,000 ahead, which in my lifetime, I've never been that far ahead. I've leased cars, I've bought cars, I've done that. So it's like even the minor steps in planning things, and the plans can go to shit, but like in the next 2-3 years, that car will be paid off and it'll be 60,000 miles and I'll keep it in good shape. So now it's, all right, I get like 10,000 or less for it, but I can go to my next car, buy a similar value car, build your way up,
and my monthly payment has gone down, right? You know, do the same thing over. Like I've learned from my mistakes to a point, and I still make some mistakes, but I still have some drive, but they have adapted to my lifestyle.
Yeah. I think it's been a great podcast. It's been one of our longer ones, so thank you everyone for tuning in.
They keep getting longer.
Yeah, we don't mean them to go that way, but when we have great conversations, you know,
Obviously, it's buy a motorcycle again, Steve. I want to. I shouldn't have sold the last one back in fucking 09.
He just keeps coming with the comments. Thank you, Bobby, for tuning in, and thank you, LJ, and all you guys in the interaction with the Facebook Live. Again, with you audio listeners, you can tune in on Wednesday evenings. This is every Whiskey Wednesday. Tune in on our Facebook Live podcast. It always starts around 7 o'clock. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for your new listeners. Again, like and please share this so we grow this thing into what we want it to be. Thank you, Nate Hale, for being on again for the 6th time.
Thanks for the
tonight. Thank you for the Masterson's 10-year ride. It was really great, and we'll open up that limestone sometime another night. I'm really excited. I'll mention on a personal note, I'm really excited. Genty from OPA in Delaware, Ohio. I'm glad we finally got that Hotel Tango with the veterans pick.
This is some personal thanks real quick. Sponsors and the people in the cigar industry.
Yeah.
Go to the sponsors, go ahead.
Well, no, thank you, Tinder Box at Easton, for providing the Alec Bradley Magic Toast. We did get to our second cigar of the evening, which was provided by Altadis, one of our biggest sponsors. Thank you, Paul, and
Josh.
The flag.
Yeah. Monte Cristo, H. Upman, and Romeo and Julieta. Aging Room, that is Altadis, and a lot more others. But thank you, Paul Waller and Josh Bentley. We did get to the Romeo 505 Nicaragua. Do you like it? Do you guys like it?
I always like that cigar.
I enjoyed it.
It's a good smoke. I think the first time I had it was not what I was expecting.
But you weren't drinking whiskey.
I wasn't drinking whiskey.
There it is.
But
my point is that it goes well with.
It does. Oh, it goes very well.
Oh.
I hear the word Nicaragua, and I'm sitting there thinking something full body, like very full body, tons of spice, pepper.
But for Romeo Julieta?
For Romeo Julieta, yes.
That'll kick your ass.
That is. But yeah, if you were to compare it to other, it's not quite what you would expect. Yeah. It's different. It's great. It's a great smoke. Just don't go into it with certain expectations just because of the word Nicaragua on it.
Absolutely.
It's a great medium body cigar. I enjoy it. It's box press.
BS.
We got our BS Gold about to light up for our third cigar. Thank you, Brian and Steve, for making an awesome cigar. And we will enjoy that for a third cigar of the evening and our sponsorship. And again,
have we done a BS Silver for the featured cigar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the very beginning.
Very early on.
The gold and silver?
Yeah.
And I've said that before.
In the comments.
I think the gold gets
way
more love.
What is Bobby asking stupid comments again?
No, he just said what's the future topic. I'm thinking topics, cigars, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. The reason why I say that is because Bobby normally just asks stuff to either provoke myself, normally myself. So
thank you for the participation.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I'm Jake Sanders, along with Steve Crane. We love you guys. Thank you, Nate Hale, for being on. Thank you, Dustin Bovey, for being behind the scenes and on last week. Happy Whiskey Wednesday, episode 53. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.